Hey guys, I'm just getting up a little image of Portugal and we can get started. Um, yeah, this one's gonna be it's normal, I guess. I guess. I'm currently playing, or I'm just about to start a game as Vijayanagar as my next one because I said I was gonna play India for you guys soon. So if for those who care about that, coming soon. And I'm gonna probably try to make these into like more structured videos. This is just me chatting with you guys though. Probably won't be turned into a video. Try to get the I don't know size right. Yeah. So, and it's interesting to yeah. I just I like Generalist is super good with eco, and I just was like, why not use a resource like that? One last wheel, yeah, maybe I'll do something. I feel sad, but yeah, about EU5. Oh, I don't know. Or sorry, EU4. I'm like, yeah, kind of done with EU4, right? At this point. And part of me is a little sad of like, I realized like I didn't even really like it just kind of happened. Like, I got access and I've been helping out, which is awesome. I'm really happy to be a part of that experience too. It's just been an interesting experience, just life experience, this whole thing. So it's been really cool. And I'm like, just like it's something in my life that I'll never forget. Just being invited to Spain and being a part of helping with the development, and really cool experience. So something I'll always look fondly on and be happy that my life ended up taking a strange turn, and um, whatever the case may be, right? But at the same time, being kind of sad that it's like, oh, you know, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I yes, now I have 600 hours in EU5 now, so I'm familiar with the game to some ways, but it's been interesting, learning. And I'm always trying to help help the devs out with balance too, and being like, hey, this felt too strong, or this doesn't feel good, and letting them do with that information what they will. I know they're super busy though, so at the same time, I kind of don't want to overwhelm them with too much, right? Um, but yeah, the new update, I'm loving it. It's really fun. I automate trade all like every time, and I tried to use I don't know I tried using the expiration and colonization automation, and I mean, it just doesn't really seem ideal, but it is what it is. Like it doesn't really. I wish it was. I can't wait for November either. Like unironically, I love playing and having. Like I really do enjoy like hanging out with streaming and hanging out with people, and like I'm gonna honestly like I learn so much more about the game when I'm playing with others because a lot of other people that are watching are gonna be like, hey, you should try this, and it's like I enjoy that a lot. I don't really know the answer to that. I guess I would take generalist's answer with that. I think if you have like a ton of gold, like I think with Bohemia, it's not it's good, but I don't know. I tend to do it, but then it's like I don't know the answer to that really, right? I guess maybe what I should do is like test both ways. A lot of times I'll ban it and get extra minting, and that seems good. But sometimes sometimes what happens is if you invest too heavily into the gold, you start having to lower your minting because it inflates you like more and more. Like as Bohemian, when you do it, like I actually had to like turn off my slider completely because Funny, even with my slider completely off, I was still getting inflated. So, just something that I don't know the answer to, but I think that it depends on how much you dev the gold too. Like it can be bad to dev the gold if you like in some ways for that, because if you dev the gold too much and you don't, yeah. Uh, and like what will happen a lot for me is that I won't have enough like access to the goods, and then it'll be less efficient, stuff like that. But yeah, so the war deck has been fixed, but I still hope that they get a little bit better. The war deck is actually like weird, like interesting, but yeah, I think I played like an England run as well and a Portugal run. So yeah, you guys are here. So I like happened to post like, okay, I guess I can like maybe put my screen a little bit to the side so I have a like area to draw or write. Let's do it like that. It's fine. Okay. So I've never seen that happen with the AI yet. And I think the part of the issue is with the AI is that I'm seeing is that they don't. I mean, I think they would probably form them. I just haven't really played to the late game, honestly, because I only played till I played till like 1500 or something. But anyways, I guess we can talk about this run and the majority of kind of how things go. So I spent a couple hours comparing runs and seeing that Generalist is like super rich compared to me in like an England game or something, right? Where like let's say that I make like 400 a month, he makes like 1200 a month, right? Which, by the way, 400 a month is still plenty, but obviously it's I'm like, okay, well, let's see what's going on, right? Obviously, there's a big difference. No, it's not like I'm having a bad campaign when I'm playing England or anything like that. It's just I kind of get curious, and I'm like, okay. So I just asked him to like kind of coach me through his thought process and the type of things that he's doing. And so he's kind of like, when I look at Generalist, he's like a min max. I like min max Conquest, and he min maxes economy. So obviously we have different play styles, but we're in a way we're both kind of min maxers. So, anyways, so the big things that we learn about, I guess I can write. Yeah, there's a lot. So Portugal's actually like, okay. I think this all started from like somebody. So Portugal's a little bit different. Like Portugal in EU4 is kind of like a good beginner friendly nation or something like that, right? Where it's like that's not the case in EU5. They're actually not a big like. I see people in the forums being like, "Oh, I want to chill Portugal around with my first round." It's like that's not like Portugal's not like Castile will deck you. Like that happens, right? And you're not super strong, and it's not as simple. But yeah, I played as Republic. Portugal's actually insane. I think like Portugal's broken OP when I played them. Um, just because they get so many good modifiers. They're actually crazy. Man, they nerfed the Ottomans so hard. I was actually gonna leave feedback on that. They like gutted the Ottomans. Oh man. I was a little sad. I'm like, they okay. So I mean, we can talk about a couple things though, but like Paradox is heavily nerfing control because control obviously is, very powerful. They definitely are an issue. The AI is definitely an issue. Like, yeah, the AI is doing much better. And it's much harder to deal with because they have a lot of armies and stuff like that. Yeah. I've had a like difficult war, especially when I was playing Portugal, I'd have like very difficult wars against Castile. And yeah, the AI is making a lot more money, and I mean, they're still working heavily on the AI too, so it's not like finished product or anything like that. But we're gonna talk about a couple nerfs to control that happened though. So that are pretty substantial that I know of. So sadly, The Ottomans used to have a government reform that would give +10 max control, and I think this was the best unique government reform in the game, right? But +10 max control is insane. That's it just means like every province that you own has +10 control, right? No, they haven't nerfed the culture hedge one, and they literally gutted this. I think it's over. So now it does +5 monthly control, and that's kind of useless, if you ask me. All this really does is makes it so you hit your cap fast. So like if your cap, let's say you take new land and the cap's like 25, sure, you're gonna get that fast. But other than that, it's like really useless. So I was thinking like, hey, I feel like it's over nerfed. Cause I'm like, oh, they freaking took the like an insanely good ability. I mean, yeah, I would say yeah, Byzantium's probably better than the Ottomans with the change. And okay, but part of the issue is that the Ottomans, I know we're kind of just talking about the Ottomans here a little bit, but the Ottomans are really good at integrating. Like they have bonuses to integrating, right? But integrating with this way is bad. Like in my opinion, they should change this. But basically, it's like it doesn't matter if you have bonus integration because you should use subjects to integrate, right? So it's kind of like a useless modifier in my opinion, just with the current way the game works, which I think should be changed, by the way. But it's like really more valuable to just use a subject to integrate for you, because then you can use your cabinet action for something else, right? Because you're not using cabinet action to annex. So I always think that that's kind of like, rough. So the Ottomans kind of have this bonus here that's not really useful, I think. Like having bonus to integration just like, you would, even if you had all the bonuses in the world, it would still be faster to just use a subject, which I think is tedious, but it's better, right? Like at the end of the day, like yes, it is a bit tedious to give all your land to the subjects and have to integrate and all that, but it's just kind of the part of the gameplay loop, and it is what it is. So yeah, I think when I look at the Ottomans, I'm like, ugh, they kind of got super nerfed. I'm no, like I'm saying before the Ottomans used to have a modifier that gave +10 max control in general, and now they nerfed it to be only so they took that away from the Ottomans. I don't think they should remove the action. I think it's just hard to know what they should do, because it's one of those things that's like, okay, think of it like this way. It's hard to even like relate it to EU4, but I guess the issue is that you have cabinet actions, right? And you have to occupy a cabinet action to integrate, where you don't have to do that to diplo annex. So it kind of it puts it in a way where it's like it feels really wasteful to integrate when you could just diplo annex, because it's the cabinet action. So anyways, so the Ottomans lost their the Ottomans had the best thing by far, and to be fair, it was strong. But they've hit controls on so many different ways. And I think that honestly, my guess is that they're going to hit Naval too, because Naval is so broken. I'll play this Portugal run, and then I'll come to the conclusion that like Naval is giga broken. Like it's insane. But I mean, it's insane with Generalist recommendations though, right? Like because imagine Generalist is going to min max all these Naval modifiers, so that's why it's so strong. It's not strong unless you do that, of course, but I definitely say playing a nation with flavor is a lot more fun, because you get really cool broken stuff, right? But anyways, so I learned about Naval from Generalist and how it works, and it's like giga broken in my opinion. But basically, you have like a presence in the water, right? So you can set your boats to like patrol the seas, and you get really high naval presence, and it lowers the proximity cost to other naval stuff like that. Anyways, so it's not even that naval matters. I think it's actually like it's like way overpowered in my opinion, because it's just I guess I could explain like the way that Generalist has me play. So imagine like our capital's over here or something, right? And we have normally when like if you have like a province, right? You every time you move to one next province, you lose proximity, and then that kind of generates or translates to control. Also, they nerfed it. So let me write another nerf for you guys. Not really. Like overpowered in the sense that it's better. It's so basically Naval is super front loaded. So like Naval is the best that it can be super early in the game, where it takes roads like you know like ages to like catch up. So like Naval is just like and honestly, Naval works with roads the best too. So I feel like Naval nations right now are just like better than regular nations. Like you would be a lot more advantageous to play somebody that like, or you would always want to move your capital to the coast. Like right now, that would be my first. But I've only played I've only played one campaign this way, but that's my impression. Like no matter who you were, you would always want to move your capital to the coast because it's so powerful. Like I could play Brandenburg and I should move my capital to the coast. I could play Bohemia and I should move my capital to the coast, et cetera, et cetera. I could be Austria. I should move my capital to the coast at some point, right? Because it's just like way, way, way better. Does the game feel ready for release? Not quite, but they've got a month and a half. So yeah, I was wrong because I didn't know how Naval worked when I played Sweden. Yo, yeah, my Sweden run I was trolling, and and so my England run I was trolling. So yeah, I learned a lot from someone who's played more than me and you know understands economy a lot better than me. But yeah, yeah, I was completely playing Sweden wrong. Completely playing when I played Modifier, like anytime I played a naval nation, I was playing them completely wrong. But and I think it's also it's night and day better. The game, it's definitely night and day better. Like honestly, if it released now, it's pretty decent. I think you know there's things that I would like to be improved, but I'm like it's definitely like way 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 but better, and you know it's pretty fun now. Enjoying it quite a bit, but I think though you know it's not perfect, and I guess people are. I think what people aren't gonna like, in contrast to like I don't mind, is that and this has to do with performance too for me, but you know like the early game is just more enjoyable. It's like EU4. It's like the first like 100 or 200 years are just kind of like they run a lot smoother for me, and they're kind of more fun. You know, when you hit that, when you get to that, like when I played 200 years, I'm generally kind of like too strong. You know, I'm too rich, but I had fun getting there, and I know that's going to make a lot of people upset. Like I don't really care that much because it's still a lot of gameplay to play, right? But I just think the reality is that you know campaigns. The fun part of the campaign is the first 200 years. So yeah, skill differences, sure. But you know, it's kind of fun setting up your nation and getting rich, but it's not as fun being rich or being super strong. It's more fun building your nation than yeah. So um, you can push like I mean, for example, my Portugal game, like I can push like 80 proximity to here. Like that's how insane it is from here. So it's like the naval is insane. I mean, I have to look at my game, but it's something like that. So it's like everything on the coast is like 90, 95, like it's like super giga high. And the thing about that being giga high is that then you can build roads from there, right? So you have like a 90 something 95, then you build roads inland like this, and it's like ridiculously strong, right? It's like it works kind of like this. So I think if in an optimal world you would like you would want like you'd want to take like land like this, right? Like you don't want the middle. Like this is dead man's zone, but everything else is like giga high control, right? Like and super value. And this gets better with age though too. I don't know if it's getting nerfed. I think it should be nerfed. From playing it because when I played it the first time, I have never been so rich in the game so early. Yes, you build roads in every province. especially because they also just give you like a buff. Like they give you like extra market access, so you like want to have a road in every province. Yeah. So I mean, it all stacks though, but like even early on, it's pretty easy for me to have like I think the lowest control province I have is like maybe up here with like 50, right? So yeah, so as roads get better too, you could extend your empire, sure, but yeah, it's super OP because the reason I think it's so OP is because it makes like every coast like this is almost as value every one of these provinces is almost as valuable as my capital in control, right? Yeah, so the way so I figure out the way you do this is you have to have light ships. Like kind of like how you protect trade and you know how you guys protect trade in EU4? So you need to have ships that patrol. Like you, and then I'm writing these numbers like number of ships. These are like ships that are going to patrol, right? So you build ships and you just kind of like they just chill here and then they give you giga control. Now the reason it's so overpowered is because and all remember guys, I'm trying to give Generalist credit here because he took the time to help me. So I learned all that. I learned most of this from him, right? But and he's basically just like min maxed how to do it, right? So and then giving me the formula. Yeah, I would never move my capital inland ever again. I would like as any nation, I would move my capital out. That would be how I would play the game now from if without drastic changes. I think like you always want your capital on the coast now. But this is I think like the only problem with I worry with Generalist doing this is I'll probably like he probably just indirectly by telling me this, he probably just getting it nerfed. But so let me explain. Also, he is using I don't know if you want to call it an okay, there's missions, right? And by default, missions are only supposed to give you a bonus at the end of at the end of the tree, right? But there's a setting to give a reward for every time. And if you do that, actually, I didn't realize, but it's actually like cracked how OP it is. But he has that turned on. So like I don't know if I feel comfortable turning that on because it's a setting that isn't default. I don't think it would disable Iron Man though. I argue that they should make missions disable Iron Man altogether, but that's just my opinion. Because I even have like talks to devs and they'd be like, the kind of point of missions is to teach you the game. That's kind of like their design philosophy with missions. It's kind of giving giving you an idea of what you should do, right? But personally, I'm like I think it shouldn't. I think it should disable Iron Man. But basically, it's like if you do, so you can change it. There's a setting that basically is like, do you want mission rewards at just the end or on every step? And anyways, you can change it to every step. And why this is super relevant is because it helps you push towards centralization really hard. And to the sense where you can max it by like, I don't know, 1500 or so. And I think that's like too soon because it gives you like a lot of crown power, but it also gives you 10 proximity. But anyways, so I guess I would say I even would recommend, or maybe I already took it, that they should nerf this because it's kind of busted. Because I think like in the campaign, the idea for me is like kind of like you push those values slowly, right? Like you want to like I think value should work in a way where it's like you're slowly pushing a nation towards a value, whereas this kind of mission just kind of lets you like push like I think you can push like 50 towards centralization with these missions, which is crazy, right? And then you get the other way to push centralization is there's a state thing where it's like a road to state thing, and then you get 10 every time. So the point being is that let me just kind of like tell you why this is so broken. Okay, so you get central, which is plus 10. And by the way, I want to say that so proximity, right? is, and this is proximity, like, I guess, cost, right? So this, imagine this is like, um every time you move from one province to the next, the price to do so is less. And that kind of just means that you can have more control in your empire completely, right? Because let's say, for example, it was like you start at 100 and you lose 10 every time, or right? And then as you go to the next province, now it's 90 and you lose 10, and so on, right? Well, it's actually a lot more than that. But if you have really, really good proximity, then it makes it so every jump is less, right? So it's like super, super valuable. Okay. So, anyways, and I kind of figured out. Basically, the idea is that you use developed province in your capital, right? Because development affects your proximity cost. And the reason why that's so relevant is because your capital is where, kind of where it all comes from, right? And so if you have really good development, it makes it like really giga good for the first jump. Yeah, of course it's live gameplay. Yeah. Obviously not. Okay, like we can't show gameplay. Of course not. But let me just tell you kind of the way. Yeah. Yeah, it would be like super bad to do that. I don't know. But okay, so and I think they're gonna nerf this because they have nerfed land. Part of why this is so good too is they nerfed. I'll get to the game. I just kind of want to explain what's going on here. So proximity used to be like 1-to-1 with control, but now it's not. It's 0.75 to control. So it's a lot worse. Yeah, it is very stupid. That's what I think too, is that it has to be nerfed after I played it. So after action report. Sorry though. I know you said differently, but okay. So now it's this, right? Yeah, I'm just drawing. So it's like if Bud is a tier 4. Yeah, you can't form Byzantium as Rome. Or you know what I meant, other around. And yeah, I have to honestly, I haven't pushed to the limit, so I don't really know. But like the idea though is that you kind of like it takes some time to do this too. Not that long, but let's say it takes a while for like your ships have to be doing this for a while to get the value. So but like Portugal and Castile start in a really good spot because they actually start the game with what's it called? The trade ships. They're the same trade ships from EU4. Light ships. So they have so Portugal and Castile start with light ships, but otherwise you'd have to research this, so it takes some time, right? But so that kind of makes Portugal and Castile, I guess Aragon, like really, really strong early on because they have these ships that you can get this control with, right? Anyways, so but the reason why it's so good is because Generalist is obviously just again, I said like he's an economy min-maxer. So we got 10 proximity cost. I think they should probably nerf this, but oh, definitely not at all. No, not it doesn't even come. Well, there is no maintenance cost from roads, so bailiffs are completely like gone. I think if I played Castile again, I would literally move my capital to the coast. In fact, I think the play is well, I was actually gonna play Vijayanagar, and the play is that you want to find the highest developed province on the coast and then move your capital there, is what I think. But that's just my first impressions. Like, I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about. That's just like what I think, right? Obviously, that's just first impressions, but like I would probably take Lisboa, or I would actually probably take Portugal's capital as Castile and move it there. I don't know if that's higher dev. I would always pick the highest dev province though. Yeah, I would look through on the dev map and be like, okay, what's the highest developed province? And then I'd do that because, and the reason that's relevant, and I learned this from Generalist, is that if your development of the province is high enough, you like it like right. And honestly, when I look at this needs to be nerfed. When I looked at all this, and Generals kind of told me what he was doing, I feel like it only isn't nerfed because it hasn't been shown off. Like the devs don't see it. I think that's like why it hasn't been nerfed. And Generals is really good at finding things that need to be nerfed. So am I, but in a different way, right? You don't really need to move your capital that soon. Like you don't need to do it like literally day one. But the idea would be that you would, like you might build up your nation a little bit, but then you would want to do that. I think, and maybe you would. I don't know 100% if you would, but I think you would. But it's like giga OP compared to like, I think it's just like my impressions of it would be like no matter who you are, you would always want to move your capital to the coast, unless you were like, I yeah, I think in general you just would because it's the best. But no, I didn't coach him on anything. He doesn't really care about that. He doesn't care about conquest. So you know what I mean. I just asked him about economy because like, but yeah, he doesn't really care about conquest. So he likes to play tall and and just build up his nation and that sort of thing. But as someone who like wants to do both, anyways. So wouldn't you want capital to be inside country to gain control there and use ships? No. Because think about it like this. You have proximity costs, right? And your capital, if it's on the coast, you have like there's a map mode called proximity, right? And it's gonna make a line like this to anywhere, right? Like this is your now nearest line. Because of how it works, you can basically get like right here now is like 90 at 90 something control, right? So essentially now, like imagine that, like, yeah, this is almost as valuable as the capital. It's only a little bit worse. Whereas if you build a road, it's way worse. Like, for example, if I was Castile, it'd be like I have 100 control here, and the next province has like 80. You can see how that immediately, and there's only a couple provinces that I could connect to, right? Whereas the coast, it's like I can connect here, 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 endless, right? And so it's like giga better because I can literally like, the quote unquote next province for naval can be like any province, right? I don't think roads ever become better because you get value from roads, right? Because this is how you're going to do it, right? You're going to now from here build roads inland, right? So it's like it works best in tandem because like you're going to build roads from this coastal province inland now. So this province can spread control to the more inland province. Yeah, forget everything about Sweden and AAR. We didn't know how naval works. We were wrong. That being said, part of the reason why I wanted to learn to be better at economy is because the game has gotten more difficult with economy, and before it didn't really matter, but now it matters a bit more to have a good economy. So right. But anyways, so roads are great. Roads are great as like in addition, right? And most stations can't have these boats immediately. So there is the average game, like you would probably have to wait, I don't know, 30 years to even do this. So, but with these guys, with Iberia, they start with light ships, but it's something that most nations don't start with. But I talked with Generalist, and he said that he would rush light ships is kind of his first tech, right? But anyway, so but like, and I think though early game, I think you would want like if you were Portugal and you could have it your way, you would want land like again like in kind of like a shape like this, right? Like you don't own this, but you own like the coast, so you can get good control like everywhere like on the coast, right? But you wouldn't really care about this land would become more valuable later as you can get bigger roads though, right? Like as time progresses, then your roads are better, then you can push further, right? So instead of like before when I was playing, it's like before I'd be like, okay, you're here, right? And you're pushing out in every direction. But the problem being is like that's a longer like for example, if I want to go here, right, that's pretty far. Instead, I'm going to draw in from the coast, which is much shorter everywhere. Now, I think this is way too good, and the reason why it's so good though is let me write it down. I don't know if it's like the new meta. It's probably just I think like right now, I mean, lots of things are changing, and the game's getting a lot. The game is getting a lot better as playing, but okay. But again, that's not true though, because remember how I told you like I played Sweden and I was doing pretty well even not doing that. So I don't know if that's true, Tala. Like you can still do pretty well. I played England without doing this, and I still had a pretty good campaign. I could have just been like 10 times stronger is all. But you know, or maybe not 10, but like 3. But anyways, the reason it's so good though is that there's not okay. Let me give you like the proximity cost modifiers. Why it's so good. Okay? That I don't know why they have this, and this is why it's OP. Or part of why it's OP. Is that you can let me tell you all the sources of proximity that I know in the game. For land, there's no extra bonuses from building a building that I can think of. If that makes sense. Yes, terrain does affect control. But let me tell you like why it's OP. There's 2 buildings you can build with naval called a wharf, right? And a dock. And I think this needs to be gutted, by the way. But each of these give plus 10 naval proximity. Okay. So there's a wharf and a dock, and these give plus 10, or I get like I think it's actually is it negative 10? It might be negative 10, but the idea is yes, only in cities. And so I think my strategy, or I think the meta, quote unquote meta, is that you should have every single coastal province be a city. Right? But that's what I did. So they get plus 10 each. Okay. And again, this is all learned from. So that and then okay, and then you have centralization to max, right? Which is another plus 10. And then there is a government reform that you need 50 naval towards that gives another 10. And then there's some like, you know, there's a couple like unique advances you can take, you know, like just like maybe some generic ones that are like plus maybe 2.5 or and these are just like ones you get from picking admin ideas. Right? But the problem, like the real crux of why this is so overpowered though is because this is insane. You have the ability to get 30 additional for naval that you, and there's no such thing like this for land that I know of. Right? So it's like you have this insane proximity cost modifiers. And also I think pushing naval also like helps with it as an additional modifier as well. But the issue I feel like is that normal proximity cost also helps you. It's proximity cost. It's like I think it's I don't know exactly how it works. It could be like again I don't really know how it's. I think maybe it's like percent. I don't know how it's calculated if I'm being honest. But it's super strong, and it makes me think that this would be like for example, I think France should move their capital to like Brittany or something, right? I don't know where, but the highest dev area probably because development. The reason why you want a high dev area is because when you move from one place to another, it checks your development. Yes, but the problem with that is that this helps. Like it only helps you because, like for example, it's like you can combine naval and like land, and that's your best option, right? Because let's say that you have like 85 or 90 here, right? Well, now you can just build roads inland, and now that's where the value of your roads come in. So you're still benefiting from roads doing this, right? Like so roads are still great for you because you're kind of let's say that you can move um what do I mean it checks for development? Okay, so like if your province basically if your province is super developed, then when it has like a proximity check, like let's say that you're here and a C tile's here, so it like first draws a line like this, right? To the C tile. Well, your development, if it's so high, it's like a modifier that makes it almost cost nothing if you're super developed. I don't think roads should be good. I think roads are good. No, no, Byron. It's based on your proximity. So it's spreading your proximity. Okay, so you can see though how this is crazy because it's like it's modifier stacking, right? And you're able to stack all these different modifiers and get really insane proximity cost. And I like, and obviously I didn't know this was a thing, and but like like I've never had so much control in so much land ever, right? And they also giga nerfed the bailiff. By the way, if you guys don't know that, I can tell you that. And they, of course, they nerf control, and they're hitting all. Like I imagine Naval's going to get nerfed because remember I told you they basically hit all sources of max control. There used to be 5 max control from being serfdom, right? They took that away. So serfdom's not as important anymore. So there used to be 10 max control from being the Ottomans. That's gone, right? Gone, gone. So they're kind of hitting all these sources, and they made it so proximity is not as good for control. So they are definitely going after this, and I think that they just haven't. Yeah, you can't build bailiffs on a different continent, but I honestly wouldn't build bailiffs on my continent either. Really, like the bailiff is like a very like I only really see building. The only reason that I would want to build a bailiff is if I was like a gold mine or something. Like other than that, I don't really think it'd be worth because they nerfed it so hard. It's just not valuable anymore. So you have to like pay, I think like at least 0.3 a month per bailiff. And so you got to pay money to upkeep them. I wouldn't build bailiffs anywhere now. It's I like grief myself. Bailiffs got like deleted. Like I think it maybe was like a overreaction to it, but like if I could choose to have it, I would rather have bailiffs be completely useless than completely broken though. If I'm being honest, I would rather bailiffs are gutted than that they're OP. I mean, it'd be better if there was a healthy balance, but I feel like they just nerf bailiffs into the ground, right? And who knows what they're going to do next with that? But that's my opinion. Is that like I didn't build a single bailiff in my Portugal game. Not that I kind of was playing more of I was trying to play more of a tall game, and things just ended up being a little bit weird. But it was like semi-tall. Can you have endless vassals in this game? No. They heavily, heavily nerfed vassals, by the way. Like, you can't have that many anymore. You could probably have like 100 before. Now you can have like 15. And that's 15 tiny vassals. So they like giga nerf Diplo cap. It's like you can't have nearly as many vassals now. And you're gonna be like a lot, and it's really, really they also increase the cost of having diplomatic spending on too. So like vassal gameplay is like took a massive hit. Colonial vassals, I think that's probably fine. Yeah, it's definitely modifier stacking. I think that they should nerf it again. Like I don't want it to be modifier stacking, but I think that they just need to hit. Maybe they just need to hit Naval a bit harder. But anyways, we talk about the bailiff a little bit because it used to give 30 local proximity cost. Right? And now it gives 20. That. And it also costs maintenance as well. And they nerfed the proximity impact, right? So prox used to give 1-to-1 to control. Now it gives 0.75. So you can see how hard this was nerfed. Like it's nerfed so many different times. It is like, you know what I mean? So it used to like literally it used to give 30 control. Now it gives 15 and it costs money. Does that make sense? Like so you can see this is like, and it's usually not worth the upkeep to build to get this. Unless there's a very valuable good that you're getting, right? But early game, that's never gonna happen, right? So no, you really only get naval control where you have ships patrolling. So I just gave all that land like Azores or whatever you say it to subjects like colonial nations. So because they have a lot more control than I would, because I can't even build bailiffs across the water anyways anymore. I think they need to nerf naval from playing it like significantly, because I didn't realize that there was like so much modifier stacking here. Because that's just crazy. Like there's no building that you could build in a land that would give plus 20. That's crazy. Plus 20 I think that the Paradox just hasn't seen this yet. I think all these things are gonna get hit. Me and Generalist actually talking about it. Like once they see these, like Scotland, for example, has an insanely broken modifier, but and once they see that, they're gonna gut it. I would pick naval focus every game now. Basically. It's very hard to push your naval to 50 though to get the bonus, I will say. In a fair way. That's what I like about it, is that it's not super easy to do. But there's weird ways to do it, but you kind of just have to get like RNG and get there eventually. I would definitely go naval as Prussia. I think the way though is like, if you're playing if you're inland, you should find, like you can play inland and you don't need to do that too. I just think it's like super powerful. Sure, George. I'm not arguing that but it's too good. I think that it should like I think I have an issue with you getting like 85 control when your capital's here, right? That's pretty insane. That's incredible. That's like, think about a bailiff, right? Like a bailiff gives you 20. This is 85. This is the value of more than 4 bailiffs. Right? I think the issue is the way that it scales early game. Like basically naval has all of its power available immediately, where roads take like ages and ages to like get progressively stronger and stronger, right? So I think the issue with naval is that it needs to kind of allow for the power to increase throughout the campaign instead of just having all the power up front. That's what I think is the issue. Does that make sense? Like, for example, England has a unique event where they can have a quote unquote like second. They get York becomes 50 proximity, so it works as kind of like a second capital, right? York, but this wouldn't even be viable. The event is supposed to be like a second city, but it's not even viable because that's low proximity. Only having 50 proximity in York, you could definitely have more than that with ships, right? So it seems like it's obviously not meant to be that way because why would they, why would you have like a powerful event like that and then that event isn't even worth it, right? But that's exactly what Flapjack is saying. The issue with I think with it is that you can get all these modifiers really early. But basically, but what's crazy is that it like works in tandem with roads as part of the problem, I think, right? Because it's not like it's one or the other, right? Like you get to benefit from roads too, you know? And like it's way better. Like imagine your capital in the center and like this. It's way harder to get to here, right? Whereas if you have a coast, you can always get to there. And there's like way more if you draw a box of where you're gonna get value, right? Like it's gonna be a lot more. Like this would be the normal. Like this is if you were using roads, this is your value. If you're using naval, this is your value. You're not gonna get a lot of value over here until you have better roads, but and I think it's to the extent that it's just like it's insanely powerful early game. Yeah, yeah, naval's super OP in my opinion. Again, my sample size is 1, so I don't want you guys to like overreact to a sample size of 1. I played Portugal with it, and Portugal was insane. And Portugal also just has insanely strong modifiers that probably are a little bit overtuned. They have like the best tax efficiency I've ever seen. I don't know the answer to that. Does it apply overseas? I think it could. Like it depends on. I don't think so. No. Like it would apply like over like you could do it like over here, like but you couldn't do it over like the New World or something, right? Because you have to have like ships that patrol every sea tile. That's how it works. So you literally have like ships that like each ship can like work on like a couple sea tiles, right? So you have like 15 ships here, 15 ships that work on like these, and like another 15 ships that work on like what I mean. So it's like you wouldn't really be able to do that across the ocean or something, but yeah, you could do it like to like England or something. Couch my language. I think well, I don't know what you mean by that. I literally said that it's my first impression. Yeah, it seems super OP. What happened to my Portugal game? Well, if you want to skip ahead to like what happened to my Portugal game is that so rich that I was able to colonize 35 places at once. No, you can't pay off AIs in war. No, I again, I think this should be viable. I think it just needs to be toned back a little bit. I'm not saying like they need to gut this and make it useless. I'm just saying they need to like make it competitive with land. To me, it just seems like it's the better choice. Oh yeah, Modifier would be insane. If I played Modifier again, I would be a completely different game. Yeah, but those two nations were already really easy before I even knew this. Colonizing doesn't really seem that valuable to me, and it's something that I probably wouldn't really do much. if I'm honest, because it just seems like it. I think that it's just it's like it's not quite there. They're working on it though. Yeah, but like to what extent should it be better, right? Like should because right now it's like 4x better or three times better. I don't again, I don't really care how they want to balance the game. I just want to like I would rather just point out to the devs that hey, this is this you could be insanely rich as a naval nation. I don't know what if they want to nerf it, it's up to them. I don't really care for to even give them an opinion on it. It's just like this feels really strong, right? I don't think you should take anything I say seriously when it comes to EU5. But like in general. Um I think that would be silly. I'm one person with an opinion on an early access build. That would be crazy to take anything I say seriously, right? In my opinion. I do want to try to help them get the right balance though. But things change so much that I don't really want people to overreact and like go on Reddit and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is so broken," like stuff like that. It's not really like my intent. Like that's like what I'm trying to avoid is people like freaking out that the game's gonna be bad because playmaker said this or something, right? Because that's happened in the past, and it's like people need to, you know, um, part of why I make these too is that the devs watch these videos and they're gonna see what I could do, and then that allows them to make the choice of being like, okay, this player could do this. Do we like that? I don't really care to. I just say how things feel, generally speaking. Yeah, that's again. I think it's just. I think the issue really comes down to the modifier stacking. By the way, is that you have again you have basically a city. So let me explain it like this: you have two buildings that you can build that are naval buildings that you need a city for, and the tech is in the first or the second age. So it's like the tech is like let's say the tech is like 1360 ish, okay, and you can unlock both of these buildings that give plus 10 or proximity cost. No, you're good. I try not to like I know a lot of people don't um I try not to cause problems for I've seen people freak out about what I say, so I'm like trying to be better about framing, especially in videos, like framing that like, I don't want people to freak out about I'm like, I just want to make sure I put it in the lens of like I played this game a lot. Like I have 600 hours and I'm a min maxer, so I don't want people to see what I do and be, kind of freak out or overreact. Of course I'm gonna have pretty insane results, but yeah. I mean, I kind of like I'm doing this full time, and I'm obviously want the game to be. At the end of the day, I want the game to be challenging and successful. And so, and I have what I like is that the devs listen, and yeah, they're super. So if I come to them and I say, hey, this feels really broken, I would imagine it's not going to be like that when the game launches. If I'm being honest with you. So that's part of why I do these type of things is I like to push the limits so that the devs can kind of see what happens when somebody pushes the limits. Like that's kind of like my goal. And it's not that I'm telling them to change it. I would say that it's kind of weird that question because I feel like the game actually has a weird issue where it's like it's the game gets harder progressively, which is weird, right? So in some sort of way, if you wanted to be like, I feel like in like I would explain it like this. In EU4, you might want to build up your nation first, right? Like you might want to build up your nation and then kind of like go to war later, right? Where like in EU5, it feels like it might be better to like massively expand first, even if you don't have any control over your nation, because it's going to be harder to get those gains later. If that makes sense. Most of us are EU4 veterans. I don't really know the approach. I honestly hated the game when I first played it because I was super overwhelmed. I think it's really good now, but it's like I know the game pretty well, right? 600 hours is like I'm fairly comfortable with a lot of the mechanics and stuff like that. Yes, exactly, Lucas. That's what I would say is it feels like there's a lot of value in like Conquest, and then like imagine like the idea would be like you kind of overextend your nation and then you spend like 50 years kind of stabilizing it. Because if you did it the opposite way, then it would be harder because those lands are now harder to snag and that sort of thing. Yes, Conquest is harder because also development. Like the more stuff is developed, the more war score and like time to integrate as well. Yeah, so I think the idea would be like, and the wars are easier because to win faster as well because of the way, think of it like, there's less forts, there's just levies, so the wars are easier, right? Because later on they're gonna have a bunch of professional troops, and it's just gonna be more difficult to win. But also, war score from battles has a way it works is that it gets worse as time goes on. Right? So like early game, you'll get like massive war score if you win a big battle. Later on, you'll get like nothing. And they made this change that I didn't mention to you guys that's interesting. So if you can take before you had to conquer like everything you wanted to take, right? And it was super tedious. But now it costs 100% more to take if you don't occupy the fort, which I think is a good like a fair trade-off. So it costs 100% more if you don't occupy like a fort. I'm like, I think I'm okay with that. So like you still want like you would ideally you would occupy, but yes, it's just exactly that. Exactly what Zlevic's saying. It's like the battles are like they're not as important later on. So it's a lot harder to conquer later on. So I feel like if you want to world like okay, if I look at like the best nation for world conquest would be the Timurids, and it would probably be going after high developed areas first as fast as possible. So like ignore I don't know, like you would just want to beeline to Europe as the Timurids, like and don't really take like a lot of the steps or something like that. I think that'd be like the way you'd want to play the Timurids and get to the highest developed areas fast. Yeah, our armies and navies, well, yeah, kind of get more expensive. I don't really know, David. I haven't really played much in India or China, but yeah, probably like I could see that too. I think you would just want to go to areas. You probably want to try to go to both if you somehow could manage it. But like yeah, no, you don't have to border the land, which I don't know. That's kind of OP in my opinion. But right now you don't. Like I could go to war with England and like kill them in a battle and like take land on their island, but it would cost me more, like a lot more to do so. Like I would get that modifier, right? So I would have to pay 100% more war score for the provinces that I took that way if I don't occupy the fort. But I could do that. But I couldn't take their capital ever unless I occupy it. That's also a rule. So no matter what, you like you can't take capitals that you don't occupy, or the provinces in that capital. But yeah. Anyways, we can get. I haven't seen the AI take as I don't think the AI takes as much of land away from their capital as they used to in this patch. Ottomans got really nerfed. I don't think they're. I think Byzantium's probably stronger than the Ottomans now. With the changes they got. With the nerfs to their government reform, I think that Byzantium's probably stronger than the Ottomans. Well, okay, I mean, there's a stupid thing. There is a really dumb thing right now that I've made tickets on, and I hope they change. But they have this weird rule where it's like, again, I'm a conquest focused player who might want to do some world conquests, right? So, but there's a rule. So imagine imagine like there's basically there's empire, kingdom, and like duchy, right? Something like that. I don't remember what the bottom two are. One of them's duchy, and then there's something like lower or whatever, right? But because every time you do, you're taking a massive penalty, which I've made. I don't know if they'll change, but I hope they do. Because like for example, if you were a kingdom, like if I'm a kingdom, right? So when I was playing as Milan, I was a kingdom attacking an empire, and I get a negative 10% war score cost. So you can see how if you stay a duchy, you get like there's more value in forever staying a duchy because of the war score cost that you get. So I think they should change this. So if you're a duchy and you attack a kingdom, you get like if you're a kingdom and you attack a duchy, it costs you more to take their land. And even worse if you're an empire. So it's like if you're an empire, so I think empire is like actively bad. Why? What about? I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. I guess they feel like that you're bullying somebody, but for me, my opinion is that like it would never be worth upgrading your government rank. Like, like the value that you get from like I wouldn't take the value. I wouldn't trade the bonuses for losing war score cost. The disadvantages are like lower diplo capacity, and like this gives you an extra cabinet member. But mostly, I would say the value is the diplo cap that you get from being a higher rank. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's worth though. Like if your idea was like I mean, imagine playing EU4. Like, would you think taking a negative 20 to war score cost would be worth? Right? I mean, it's definitely strong, but it's not 20 war score strong. Honestly, cabinet members aren't really that important after a certain point in the campaign. Do you think it's realistic that an empire would actually they would be worse at taking provinces from a smaller nation? I don't know if that would be the case. It's just the like not really, no. No, you do not rank up automatically. In fact, when I was playing my Italy game, I intentionally did not upgrade my rank to an empire because I didn't want to have to pay more to take land. And by the way, this also affects antagonism as well, right? So if your empire taking lower stuff, you're taking more. It's going to cost you more antagonism to take the same thing that you would have otherwise taken. So I made a ticket about this, of course. Do vassals change the religion? You can force them to do so, but I it's really weird. You can force people to do that, but it seems like I don't know. I have to test them more, but they don't really convert culture for you. They might convert religion for you, but I don't know. It really just depends on what the AI does with their cabinet actions, right? But you can see how this is like. Again, I don't know. I don't think this will be a big deal for the average player, probably. By the way, but I think it would be a big deal if you were like trying to like conquer a lot of land, right? Like that. That's the see the one reason I think the Byzantium's worse than the Ottomans maybe is because the Ottomans don't start as an empire. But I think the Ottomans might be forced if they complete their thing right. They might be forced into an empire. So, but yeah. And to be fair, I think if you just stay kingdom, I think you're fine. Yeah, like I think the best way to rule conquest would be to stay as a duchy. Because yeah, for sure. Like just like absolutely. That would be the way right now. If you want to if you or even if you just are like you want to be able to take way more land later in the game, it's definitely the way. I can't really remember the if I'm being honest, the bonuses from forming into a higher rank feel really underwhelming. Except maybe Empire getting an extra cabinet member. That's nice, but it's not that insane either. Like, but it feels to me, it actually feels like you're nerfing your nation to like upgrade the rank. So the reason I say that is because Byzantium starts as an empire, and so like for example, when you're Byzantium fighting the Ottomans, you have to pay more war score already to take Ottomans land. By the way, so as like Byzantium, you like day one, you have to pay more war score to take land from the Ottomans because you're an empire and they're not. They're in fact, I think you might have to pay plus 20. Or I don't know if they're a kingdom. Actually, I don't know, but you might have to pay an additional 20% even. If they're not a kingdom, which they might not be. Like if you're attacking Serbia though, or something, right? Because Serbia is not a kingdom. And so if you're Byzantium fighting Serbia, you have to pay an additional 20% war score cost and and that affects antagonism as well. So that's part of why Byzantium's actually like not amazing, is because they start as an empire. There's not a gov cap, no. So that's like one thing I would say that makes Byzantium like potentially not as strong. I agree. I think it would make sense if it was like automatic, but yeah, that's just how it works. And to me, it's like it's not worth it to be an empire. Right now. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, though. Again, that yeah, I guess. But also, the reason why War Score is like there's a lot of issues that I have right now that I'm hoping they'll fix too. But like for example, they made Parliament CB. Now it's worse, right? You guys know that watch this. Now it costs you like 10% extra to take land with this, right? But the meta would be that you should like, for example, if you want to fight Castile, and I did this when I was Portugal, is that you would take one province so you could release a nation and then reconquest, because reconquest is like this, and reconquest, you don't have to take the reconquest course to get the benefit. So you could literally just like take this land in the war, and then the next war take this. You know what I mean? Like you could just abuse it by like you can continue to use this. And I've had feedback that said that you should only get the modifier for the provinces that are actually your cores. But I mean, we'll see what they do, right? But I did leave feedback that I said that. Because I was asking Generalist about it, and he basically says, yeah, he doesn't really care about Parliament CB being insane because he uses an even better CB than Parliament CB, right? That's why he doesn't care about it. I'm like, oh, he uses this, which is better. No, well, yeah. So like for example, let's say that you're in this case, let's say that you're Aragon and you're fighting Castile, right? Well, you might just give away a piece of land so you have Reconquest forever, right? But you don't have like it doesn't you don't actually have to take the land like you don't have to take the province back to benefit from the CB, if that makes sense. So that's why I think it's like it's super abusable. And so I made feedback that said that you should only get the war score cost on the provinces that are your cores, and that otherwise it should be plus 100%. That's kind of what my feedback was. But yeah, that was just kind of like stuff like that because you know. But yeah, do they take additional antagonists to take land outside of vassal schemes? No, that's the problem, right? Is that like you would just get immense value by just continue to use that CB. Right. And that's what I think too, is they just need to make it like a U4. But like a common strategy I would do, and you can do this with like the 100 Years War as well, where it's like, okay, right now union like I told you unions aren't worth it, right? And so if you rather than winning the 100 Years War, you should just keep attacking France and taking more of his land with the modifier you get because it's like negative 25%. So it's kind of like another CB issue, right? And I don't think you should be able to do that because it's kind of silly, right? Like you're supposed to become the king of France, but if you want to, you can just keep using the CB over and over until you annex France or whatever. So that's like another way that it's kind of broken. I wouldn't say meta. I don't know what I'm talking about. Too, right? Like this is a complete like honestly this patch is so different that it's like relearning the game in a way. Like the changes they made over the last month are very very dramatic. And I doubt we'll see this level of changes from here on out, to be honest, because they just don't have enough time to like test it and everything. But I think the changes are really really dramatic from a month ago. The game is 10 times better than it was a month ago. And I would say that I've even told the devs this that and I'm like 10 times more optimistic than I was before about the game being good on release. Yes, David. I think that really like how to say my opinion is that they don't really have enough time to make much drastic changes at this point. I think what they're going to do is lock in things like the AI, like they're going to work on making the AI better and better, and they just need to start polishing. They really, with only a month and a half or 6 weeks left, I think that's kind of where they're at. They need to just lock in and polish, so they can, or and fix a couple things. Like I don't think it's that hard to make that CB so that you can't take land other than the Reconquest scores, right? That's like a minor adjustment. But I don't think they're going to make any like major adjustments from here on out, or you know. Yeah, so I'd say tall and wide are really fun. Both. What's the time difference? Like a month. Oh wait. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they told us that it was about a month. They've been cooking for a month and they released. And there's a couple things that aren't quite working as intended, and I wish I could even like I left feedback and they made changes, but Like, I left a bunch of HRE feedback and they made a bunch of changes, but now the HRE doesn't work, so I can't give feedback on it, right? The Nikos, though, I don't think they would do a significant change because they wouldn't have time to properly playtest that. So whatever big changes they make, they need to at least leave at least a little bit for testing of that change. Because I can't imagine you'd be like, you're not gonna in the last few weeks be like, here's a major change. Like, no, you might make those changes in DLCs, but yeah. Did you guys watch Levik's video? I thought it was good, but yeah, they gutted the Ottomans. I can't believe they gutted the Ottomans so hard. Actually, I was shocked to see how bad that's crazy. What's wrong with the title? Porch. Oh, I sorry, I'm missing a U. Sorry, I can't. Sure. Thanks for pointing that out. I missed that. The Ottomans took a massive nerf. I learned about how to min-max control mostly in ecos, and like how to build your economy the most efficiently, and how to abuse prices and stuff. Like, for example, a strategy that Generalist likes to use is spamming lumber mills, right? So that you have an abundance of lumber, and then you can expand RGOs at half cost. So you like spam lumber mills early, and then RGOs are half off. Would be like one of the things that I learned from him. And then you just like spam a ton of that. So the idea is that if you want to mass build something, that you want to overproduce that resource. If that makes sense. So it's like if you want to mass produce. Honestly, it's not lame, Rants. Like, economy is 10 times better than it would be in EU4. It's not lame. It's actually really fun. In fact, economy is one of my favorite parts of the game. But that's just my opinion. I'm like, it's not lame. Actually, it's actually freaking. Like, the economy is really fun. I think you should. Like, the building is way more fun. There's just so many different buildings and ways you can put your nation. I'm pleasantly surprised to like it, if that makes sense. Like, I again, guys, I played a game as a colonial nation, and I didn't go to war for 200 years, and I was really enjoying it. Isn't that weird? That happened to me. I didn't go to war for 200 years, and I was just vibing and having a fun time. Like, I would do it again. That was fun. I was playing a colonial nation. Like, I was a subject nation. Isn't that weird? Like, I played my Sweden campaign, and then I became a colony, and it was like really fun to build up my nation and like try to figure out how to do everything and like all these different things, right? I'm just saying, like, that's weird. And coming from my play style, you guys know that I normally don't like stuff like that. So what I'm saying is that, like, they've done a great job of making playing tall actually fun, even for someone like me. And this, I mean, I don't know that yeah. I didn't really learn anything about trade. I always just automate trade. I think it's too the way that trade is, it's too like tedious. I mean, I had to make some trades when I was playing my colonial nation because I needed to get some resources into the market. But other than that, the AI will generally just pick the thing that's the most profitable, and I'm generally okay with that. I'm not changing my playstyle too much, but it's just. I mean, I think if you can master both, you're going to be like, you want to be good at both, and that's kind of what where I'd like to get to. Yeah, I mean, obviously the naval thing, but yeah, collapsing prices is really big because, if you're gonna and I learned about, so there's a Vic 3 I played a tiny bit of Vic 3, but I learned that there's a lot of there's a good amount of value in like building levels, right? And I didn't realize this before. So the idea being that like you know, you have like a workshop, right? Like a let's say you have a factory. Well, it's more valuable to have like a really high level factory in your capital, for example, than just having a bunch of factories everywhere. Like in Victoria, if you guys have played that. And I think that's fun. Like you get like a bonus. So like you know, like a modifier. So let's say for every factory gives you like an additional 1% efficiency or something, right? You can't really play the game like I mean, I think that like if I'm being honest, a lot of the automation just isn't. It would probably be fine for a casual player, but for anyone that like wants to min max a little bit, it would break you. Like you would not like if I automate like colonization or exploration or something, right? Like imagine that I could explore 10 places or colonize 10 places at once. It's gonna do like 2 to 3 at once. So it's like super. It's not efficient. You can do it, and it would like slowly get the job done, but it's just you know it's probably not what you'd want to do. I think they do need to fix the collapsing prices issue. Um, yeah, I think a lot of the stuff too, like a lot of the stuff that I see from Generalist is like leans on the exploit type of side of things a little bit. Like the way that you collapse prices doesn't really make sense, and I hope he's left feedback I know on that. But the idea is like it's not realistic for you to be able to lock in a price, right? Like you know, you basically you overbuild a resource because the way it works is if you have a certain threshold, then it costs negative 50% to build whatever building you're trying to build, right? You know, at least that part of it. But let's say that, you know, inflation's not hard to deal with, no. It's not really unlimited. I mean, sure. Yeah, the estate thing is weird. Yeah, I agree. They needed to like fix that, I guess. The nobility buys more. The nobility basically it's not as big of an issue when you don't have a lot of bailiffs. But I guess I should look at my game and like I don't know how it affected my Portugal game, but as Portugal, I was so rich as Portugal. I've never like so I played a lot of the game, but the first time I played with all these, you know, all these tips from generalists, I was a lot more rich immediately with Portugal than I was as like any nation. I've never been so rich like so early. Like by the 1500s, I'm sure I was making like at least like like you know at least 1,000 a month, and that's crazy. In my opinion, it's too good. Like you know, it's funny because I was talking to journalists about this, but like I might get bored because I'm so strong in that way, but I feel like he's gonna get bored because he's just too rich too fast. I could do that, but I think that's kind of like you know on skirting the line of what they would want. Not really with Portugal because I upgraded every single RGO to max, right? Because I'm so rich that I'm just upgrading. Like that's my priority. The problem with collapsing prices is it doesn't update immediately. Like imagine like something like this. Like let's say that you have 100 extra like you have 100 plus lumber, right? So you have like way more lumber than you need. So this drives the price of lumber down. Okay? But then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm going to put 600 buy orders in for lumber, right? And the price gets locked in because it's like you don't unpause the game, right? So it's like even though because what should happen is it should dynamically change that once you put in 100 orders, right? Then the price should go up because like you see how that the issue it doesn't update immediately. That's the issue, and so you're able to like the idea is that you kind of like save up a bunch of money, and then you invest all at once when the prices are low. And then, you kind of lock in that low price, and yeah. So I think it's like honestly, to me it's almost like exploit territory, right? Right. But I mean, you could subsidize in Vic 3, right? Like you could subsidize those buildings to do it anyways. But to me that's kind of exploiting. So I mean, the way that Generalist min-maxes his economy though is, in a way, to me looks like it's kind of exploity, which I'm not saying is bad. It's just, when I say exploity, I more so mean like, kind of like it would be like if I use the CB um to go to war with people, right? Like technically it's not like it's like it's not an exploit directly, but it's kind of like ish, right? But that's what I would say. And Generalist is very good at finding like economy min max kind of deals like this. And I only have like a baseline understanding. Like I know Generalist like understands it very, very well. I have like a minimal understanding, obviously, compared to him. But if you guys want, I could, yap a little less, and we could get into the Portugal run to just kind of tell you how it went, if you want. But whatever you guys want to talk about. Do I ever use loans? No, rarely, rarely, unless I just randomly run out of money and then I'll take like one loan or something. But never to the sense of really getting in a lot of debt, except when I was a colonial nation when I almost went bankrupt. Okay, let's talk about Portugal then. Sorry, guys. I mean, I had to kind of explain the details because I'm playing this game a lot different. I don't know, Steven. Like, I would just not be the person to ask that because I don't really play multiplayer already. How long did he coach me? I mean, me and him, like, he probably coached me for like an hour or two, and then we just like sat there chatting for like another 6. We were we were just like sitting there forever, just chatting about the game. In fact, we actually mentioned that we probably should have like done it as part of like a stream because we were just like chit chatting about lots of different stuff. We were just like shooting the shit type of thing for a while. Me and him probably are the most experienced. Like I know me and him by far have like the most hours of any creator. So we kind of, in a way, like probably have the most knowledge combined. I'm not saying other people aren't experienced. I'm just saying that literally, like, time played, me and him have played more. I'm not indicating that other creators aren't as good, by the way. Just the me and him know life the most. Um, Papal mechanics are I don't know. They're just like there's something that's like you should use them, but like the big one that you can get is like -10 antagonism for 10 years. So if you're in the HRE or something, you might want to use that. But you can't use it for a while. Like there's some crisis that the church has, and then you can't use it for like 50 years. So you can use it for like the first 20 years, and then you have to and then you can't use it for 50 years. And then you can use it again after that. So a lot of times I just kind of forget, but there's like I think there's some naval bonus too or something. I don't know. They're okay. You can add, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. Less yapping, more Portugal. Okay, let's get it. So we start our game off with the intent to play tall and kind of just play with economy, right? We're trying to learn how to. We've never really used naval before, so in this campaign, we're really trying to have a good economy, and so that's kind of the focus. And we're kind of the mindset like, okay, we're gonna go and we're gonna try to play tall because I kind of enjoyed that when I was playing as a colonial nation. And I kind of wanted to see how that felt. I also did I know this is yapping, but I did another run where I play a super strong England game, and then I try to form America and get independence. But that's a different time. Okay. So as Portugal, we start with light ships, but we don't have a lot of ports to build them from. So we can build a couple light ships, but we need more. Keep in mind. So that's kind of the way that we start. So we're kind of like, okay, we want more. But we're also going to develop our capital. And obviously this is a recommendation of, and this is really, developing your capital isn't good if you're landlocked, but it's very good if you are, you have a naval province, right? Because think about, let's just imagine, I guess, a scenario like if your capital is here or something, right? You're only bordering, I don't know, 4 different things or something like that, right? So your development modifier is only going to be used a few times, whereas when you're doing it navally, it's used over and over and over. So development seems a lot more meaningful in a naval nation. Does that make sense? Just the idea that kind of like the connection, right? Like you only get your capital only gets to like affect a couple different areas if you're landlocked. Whereas if it's naval, it can be as many provinces that you connect to navally. So just tend to think of it like that. So like let's say your capital is here, your development only affects the things that are immediately connecting to you, right? And as a naval nation, your capital is going to affect every single coastal province that you hit, right? So it's like you get a lot more value out of developing. So I think that developing is worth it here. I may have said that. Did you listen to me? You're the idiot if you did. I don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm learning a lot as I play. I'm just saying, like, have I not told you guys that I don't know what I'm talking about enough times yet? Yes, last stream I said that it was bad. I was bad. Right? The capital wasn't the bad thing, it was me. Isn't Toledo further south? Toledo? Yes, I'm sure it is. I'm sure I'm not. Yes, 100%. Braffy. So okay. So again, that's kind of our mindset coming into the game. Is that we want to try to have a good economy and see how everything feels. Now Portugal has literally broken amounts of tax efficiency too, so I want to try that out. It's like a modifier called tax efficiency that they get they get like plus 25% tax efficiency through their, let's call it national ideas if you want to call it that, in terms of like EU4. And not immediately. They get 10 at base and then 15 later on. I think, I mean, Nikos, are people trying to distract me? I think colonization's not worth it. But I mean, it could be fun for people to do regardless, so it's not like it matters, right? Like it's still a fun mechanic to play, but it's like, yeah, no, it's not if you're playing a single player campaign, it's not worth it. But if you're playing a multiplayer, it might be worth it because you sometimes can't really expand in multiplayer so much. But yeah, it would be a lot more valuable to expand than to right. Anyways, so we start off and we're just building up. We're building a lot of roads, and we're trying to kind of see how we can get some ships built out, right? But we don't have that many cities, and we're lacking, what's it called, sailors. So we don't have that many sailors. But we build a couple ships, and we start trying to get naval. I think it's called, what is it? But there's a new map mode that I'm using a lot, and it's like the naval map mode. And you can kind of like you want to get like really good. And I guess the idea is that if you have really good naval presence, that it lowers the proximity costs from one coastal province to the next. But also, we want to build roads as well, especially early. Roads are probably one of the best thing in the game, or one of the strongest things to build in the game, partially because they added maintenance. So imagine that a normal building has a maintenance cost, but a road does not have a maintenance cost. So in a sense, roads were buffed because everything else was nerfed, if that makes any sense. Okay, so in the way that we build roads is going to be a little bit different here. And we're kind of learning, like, so I might want to open, instead of, before I would kind of just build roads to everything because I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I've changed that a little bit. One sec, guys. So, and this is like an advice, again, and I reached out, I've obviously reached out to Generalist, and I do appreciate Generalist. Like, he's a good dude. You should check him out. He's opposite to me in the way that he plays, but very similar in the min-max mentality. So definitely, if you guys will, like, I'm just saying, like, I'd recommend checking him out. He's going to be a great resource for you guys when you pick up the game and that sort of thing. And he's a good dude. So, yeah, check him out. I think it's really cool when other creators are willing to sit down and and be like, hey, man, I see your economy is a lot better than mine in this run. What and just him being willing to sit down and help me out is really cool. So I guess I'm just trying to say good things, and I just chatting with him. He's a good guy. But okay, so instead, and I kind of learned this from him, but instead of me building roads just like everywhere, I'm gonna build roads now to things that are valuable, which I know that's obvious, like, but I wasn't really doing that before. So, like, maybe I have something that's like a nice resource here, then I'm gonna like build a road there instead of just being like, oh, I'm gonna build roads everywhere. It's like I'm kind of first prioritizing the roads that are gonna have the most value, if that makes sense. So again, that's just things that were like learned from him taking the time to help me out. So we're prioritizing building roads to valuable places. And we start off with a really big amount of lumber for some reason. So we basically, our RGOs are only 25 each to expand. So I'm like, okay, so I'm kind of just like working on my economy, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. But then I don't, so we kind of like build up our economy for like 10 to 15 years. And the Black Death hits, and I'm gonna care about the Black Death a lot more because I want to like try to save my pops so I can have like the best economy possible. But I don't really have a lot of money to combat the Black Death either. But I'll do what I can, sort of thing. So, anyways, that's just all I wanted to say about that. Like I do care about the Black Death, and I'm trying to combat it, but I don't have that much money to start off that I can really just like I'm pretty limited on what I can do. And I don't want to go into crippling debt to make it happen, right? And in this patch too, I mean, they're making lots of changes, but I mentioned that this patch has sliders where you can turn off your army completely, and you can turn off your navy completely, and your forts, right? But this is already being changed. So this is like already changing, right? I think what they were doing is they wanted to get the AI to have a lot of money, in which they do in this patch. The AI is like giga rich, so because the AI can just do a lot more if they have money, right? So again, this is already patched or going like on their nightly, probably, right? Or that's to my understanding is or my understanding is like I think like Zlevik wrote some feedback on it, and they had mentioned that this is already adjusted, so to speak. But just to point out that that's kind of like the AI just has so much money. But anyways, so it's about 1360, so not too much time has gone by. But, you know, a little bit, and the Black Death is mostly over with. So we're not making a ton of money, but we're kind of building up. And we get decked by Castile. Right? Just again, I didn't declare the war. So Castile's trying to union war me. Right? And I'm like, F. I didn't really plan for this, but I'm gonna do my best to win. So I'm like, okay. No, I'm not allied to anybody. You don't like Portugal doesn't start allied. But in hindsight, I don't think it would be fine if I was a junior partner. In hindsight, I think it's like it wouldn't make it that much. It wouldn't make a big deal if I lost the Union War. Unions aren't like they are. Like when I played a Prussia game, I became a Union under Bohemia and had like a super strong game. But I think in hindsight, I might just like lose. But basically, in the early game, battles are super, super important. So I kind of stack up. He's got like imagine that he has, I don't want to say double the amount of troops that I have, but let's say that he has maybe 50% more troops than I do. Right? And let's say I have, this is after the Black Death as well. So we're both kind of lower than we would be before, but I have 15K. Let's say that he has like 25K. Something like that. I don't really know the numbers, but more or less, I'm able to win because he splits up his guys like this or something, and I'm able to win some pretty decisive battles. But at the same time, I don't really want to go and siege out his land because I will lose. But again, remember how I said the war score is so big in the early game, right? Or sorry, the war score from battles is so big, and I've won 2 major battles. So I have like a good like 20 to 30 war score or something like that. Or you have war score? PUs aren't like they are in the game though. You're not like PUs don't work like that. It would be completely fine to be a PU in hindsight. But so I kind of decide like, okay, he declared me like I'm not the asshole here. He's the asshole. So I'm going to take some land from him. But so anyways, I just take like this type of thing from Castile in the war and kind of peace out a little bit early. You could eventually become the senior partner, but you'd have to like, outbuild him first. So anyways, we go ahead and we take a little bit of land from Castile. We don't really want this war to, for one, we don't really want a ton of land because we're trying to play tall. Like that was our objective, right? And like we've kind of been derailed in a way because we didn't want to take any land, but like it's kind of like we're here, if that makes sense. I'm like, oh, we're kind of here. So I guess if he decked on me and I have to put resources into winning this war, then I should get something out of it. So I do that, and then I immediately, instantaneously, I get declared on by Morocco. Which is like, I'm like, come on, game. I'm literally trying to play tall. Why are you doing this to me? Right? So now I get declared on by Morocco. And I'm just like, and I think by this time, Morocco had taken like a bit of Granada's land or something like that, right? But anyways, it's not that hard for me to win this war because this isn't a crossing anymore. So like, basically it's like Morocco has to land his troops via boat, and that's kind of hard for him to do, right? So it's not that hard for me to beat Morocco either because there's no straight crossing. But at the same time, I don't really want to go and invade him because I don't have any boats either. So it's kind of like, I guess I'll take this land from Morocco and leave. So again, I'm kind of being derailed on this kind of idea of like, I want to play tall. I don't really want to do this, but and yeah, this wasn't my plan, but I'm like, okay, that's fine. So we're gonna give us all the subjects as kind of our normal coring process, right? So we have like 4 different subjects, I think, maybe 5, something like that. And we're gonna, and the problem with part of this is that part of this is Sunni. So part of these subjects aren't going to be very easy to integrate. But we're like, okay, that's fine. They declared on me. I I don't even know. And by the way, later on, Castile will fall in. Later on, me and him will be in a union anyways, and that's just because his ruler dies, and it like just happens. So whatever. My point being is like unions aren't like they are in EU4. It's not like this big deal, right? I don't really get any value from it. In fact, so my leader becomes the guy. So let me explain this. Castile's guy dies, right? And my guy must be like, my guy's there is on the throne now. Maybe they're brothers. I don't know the relationship or how that happens, but my guy is the leader of both nations now. But if I wanted to pass union laws, he would still be the junior or the senior partner. Right? Like if I wanted to like integrate him, I couldn't because he's stronger than me. Who am I going to ally, I guess? Well, you know what's funny is I actually allied to Castile. But then he broke alliance with me and then attacked me. So it just didn't pan out. And then like there's really no one else for me to ally. Like Morocco is not going to ally me. Aragon isn't going to ally me. And I tried to get an alliance with France, it didn't work out. So there just really isn't anyone else that wants to ally me. I guess I could have tried to ally to England, but I just didn't think about it. I tried France, but it didn't work out. So anyways, we become in a union, and this doesn't really matter. But for a time, at least, we're in a union together. And of course, I'm not going to centralize the union because that would make me the lesser partner. That's just how it works. But I think I decentralized the union, and there actually is some value to doing that. But anyways, so this is a lot of an eco game, so I don't know if you guys are going to be as interested in that. But what we're going to do is start building. We want to start. We want to get our tech, and we're going to rush the naval buildings. So there's a dock that we want. And I think it's so there's 2 buildings that you can build, and these are kind of like armories for sailors essentially. So they're going to generate sailors, but they're also going to give that 10 proximity cost. But they are a building that generates sailors as well. And that's relevant because we need more boats so we can get naval presence. Again, in Iberia, you start with a light ship, which is super strong. Because normal nations do not start with the light ship, and they have to get the first institution, and that probably takes some a bit of time. But around this time, it's probably like 1365, and we're gonna get the Renaissance, and we're gonna rush towards these buildings. I don't remember which one. One of them you get at the game start. One of them you have to unlock. I don't remember which, but the point is that we're rushing the one we don't have. And then so the goal from here is kind of we want to turn. I mean, we're building up our nation in a lot of ways. And again, we're trying to make sure that whenever we want to max our RGOs first, because RGOs to me are really good because buildings now have a maintenance cost. So if I built a factory, there's some sort of cost that I have to pay to maintain that building, whereas RGOs don't have that. So in a way, I think this buffs RGOs because a little bit. I'm not that good with eco, so take anything I say with a big grain of salt. But so we're trying to max our RGOs, but we want to make sure that we're paying max RGOs, but make sure that we're paying half. RGOs mostly just cost lumber, right? So we want to make sure that we overproduce lumber. Overproduce. You get the point. Overproduce lumber so that the price is half off. That way we're essentially getting all the RGOs for 25 gold instead of 50, which obviously over the span of the game is a lot. Yeah, I think my Discord does that, yeah. So anyways, you can see the value here, right? Instead of paying 50 per RGO, we're paying 25, and that's going to translate into us having a lot of money. You get, yeah, so you can get lumber from RGOs and buildings. So you can build lumber mills, like a bunch, and then there's also like a RGO for lumber specifically, but they both like add value to you having lumber, right? But yeah, so I'm trying to get I'm trying to drop the prices of lumber before I build a lot. But some things I'm trying to do again are I want to turn all the coasts into cities, right? And I'm trying to push centralized a lot. And basically, anytime I have parliament, I'm going to try to max taxes as well, right? That I'm going to use parliament mostly as just get parliament. Like again, I want this nerfed, but I'm whatever. That's my opinion, right? So essentially, parliament. If you raise that, you can parliament every 5 years, right? So 1 out of 5, you can double your taxes. So essentially, every 5 years, I'm going to try to. Mostly, I'm just going to double my taxes. So yeah, essentially 20% of the time I have double taxes because of parliament. Yes, Generalist is against nerfing parliament. We don't see eye to eye on that. But I think it's just because he likes how OP it is. I think Generalist likes things being OP. Is my vibe. Like he enjoys that, which is totally fine, by the way. Right? But that's like my thought is that he likes how strong it is. He likes that he can raise taxes and it has super high value. Yeah, so it's for 1 year though. So you and it's a bit more punishing now. By the way, I get a lot of civil wars. Many civil wars with the changes to the way that estates work. He did say that. He likes it as a tool. And I think we could maybe come to agreement. He likes it. He likes the idea that your nation has to like interact with with a government. Like you have to interact with your government in the states every couple of years. He likes that. I just don't want, and I'm fine with that. I just don't want it to be so impactful. And I think part of it, and it's kind of weird because he mentions he doesn't use Parliament CB, but then he uses kind of an exploit. So I'm like, well, if you didn't have that, what would you do? Like the whole Reconquest CB. So I don't know. That's just what I'm saying though. That he never uses that CB because he uses Reconquest, which is now better, and a bit abusable. No, I mean no, it's expansion exploits, in my opinion too. But anyways, so I generally use Parliament to increase my taxes, but also it's important that I want there's like 3 things I'm trying to look out for. The best possible thing that happens is the roads debate. Right? There's a roads debate that takes priority over everything else because if you pass it, you get +10 to centralization. And remember, centralization gives me both crown power and proximity cost. So if this debate happens, it's more important that I pass the debate than actually anything else. So if I can't get taxes when this pops up, that would be okay. If that makes sense. So it's like this takes precedence over getting taxes. But this thing's kind of rare, I think. This thing is like, I don't know, maybe it's 1 in 5 or less the times that you get this. But there's also 2 other debates that I can't remember. One is you get +2 to naval if you complete it. And then there's another one that you get negative, or this is a second one that you get +2 for naval for failing it. Okay. So these are 2 that I'm looking out for because I want to get a reform that gives me, I'm trying to push for a naval reform, right? That will give me more proximity impact, but I have to have 50 naval to do it. So it's really difficult to get to this point. The important thing that 100 centralization gives is 10 proximity impact. So a lot of what we're doing here is stacking this modifier, proximity impact. So that's kind of like the name of the game. Like if you want to have a ton of money, the name of the game is control. And proximity impact is one of the biggest sources of that. It's not quite like 10 max control, no. It's a negative modifier. So it's like, imagine like it would be like this. Let's say you have a province here and a province here, okay? And when you move towards them, it has like let's say it has a cost of like 20 or something, right? Well, then if you have negative impact modifiers, right? Then then this amount goes down to say 10. And then you can see how that's very good because now the next province is going to start higher and same thing. So every time that it travels further, it's going to be impactful to have this modifier, right? It just basically it costs less to move from province to province. Yes, it's a very insane modifier. And I think it's more balanced on land. I think it's nuts that there's 2 buildings that give it that are naval, but there's no buildings on land that do this. And I almost guarantee you that these are going to be nerfed before launch. Anyways. So anyway, yeah. So we're trying to push that naval reform. So just to kind of mention Parliament, though, so there's 3 issues that we care about mostly, and those are the 3. The roads is the best one because it gives 10 towards centralization. But we're also going to abuse the missions, and we're going to turn on the settings with missions where you get a reward for each thing. And this is going to help us push really, like we're gonna get like plus 50 towards centralization from the missions. And I don't know how I feel about this because it's not a default setting. But whatever, right? We're following someone else's build anyways, right? But I don't know how I feel about it because you have to actually go in and change the settings. Because by default, you only get a reward for the end. But there's an option that you can change, and it doesn't affect Iron Man, where you get a reward for every individual mission. No, like the missions that are in the game. So, and these missions are kind of, and Paradox has said this, by the way, that these missions are a tool for new players to learn the game. So I don't know how I feel about the rewards being so strong. In fact, I would probably recommend that they nerf these. But that's just kind of me saying that, right? This felt too strong to me is what I'm saying. Just in the fact that I was able to push centralization so fast. Whereas when for example, it took me longer to push naval to 50 than it took me to push centralization to 100. If that makes any sense. So it's like much, and I mean part of that is it's just really hard to push naval. It's not temporary modifiers. It's like changes to your mission, right? Like you're getting values when you do these missions towards certain things. And so I didn't even know about these missions because I usually don't use missions. So that's just something I learned from. I just disable missions because they seem like more of a tutorial thing, and I've obviously played the game a lot, and I don't really need that. Yeah, they're generic missions for every nation. So, I mean, I don't know how I feel about using these in general. I probably wouldn't, but for the sake of this kind of modifier stacking and you know, following somebody else's build. Yeah, Generalist told me about these missions. I literally said that. Because I don't usually use the missions because I'm just kind of like, I can't be bothered. And I don't really like, they're kind of meant for learning the game. And I'm like, I don't really need it. So it's kind of cheesy. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about stuff like this, right? Just in the sense that like, it seems super OP and right. So I don't really, in my opinion, I probably would be pushing for some of these stuff. Like this feels like this is really like modifier stacky, right? And you know what I'm realizing is that yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it, right? Like this is very modifier stacking. The way that he's having me kind of work my economy, right? Which is fine. I'm not saying, like, I'm just saying it is definitely like we're stacking proximity cost. And that's kind of the name of the game. Most of what we're doing is that. And so we're turning everything into cities that's on the coast, right? So everything's a city on the coast because we can build those 2 naval buildings that give plus 20 proximity, or I think it's either negative or positive, but you get the point. We're turning all these coastal provinces into like giga proximity stack stuff, right? So it's like, let's say my capital, I think the capital's like here, but I'm getting like, I get like 100 control here, 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 and here. So essentially these other provinces too are like, think of them as like a second and third and fourth capital, right? They actually literally all have a 100 control, but not quite. I guess they're not quite as good as the capital, but very close, right? Like it's almost like they almost all have the same value as that. But the idea is that there's a map mode that I didn't know about, and it's called proximity map mode. And essentially, you can click a province like here, and it's going to draw a line to the most efficient way to get to that province at the moment. So what I'm going to do from there is then, then I'm going to build a road from this location to here, because it's telling me that like this is the best proximity, and then I'm going to build roads that but mostly to try to explain, we're essentially building roads almost like this, which is different than how I've ever played before, right? Because normally I'm like in the middle of a nation and I'm building roads out, whereas in this, I'm building individual roads that don't really connect to each other as much, right? So like, these roads, it's a little bit different, but that's kind of like the idea. And it's more like this, where we're doing this. Yeah, I can turn. You don't need that many pops to. It's not a town. It's not a level 3. It's level 2. Right. So it's and there's a lot of pops. I think you only need like 5,000 pops to make a 5K pops to make a place into a city, and that's probably literally every province I own is eligible for that. Oh, and by the way, we are going to build, temples in every province as well. That's a city, and cities also have like they have more max control. But the idea is kind of like, yeah, we're just getting control like this, right? And this is like the perfect, like Portugal is set up in a way where it's like this is the ideal amount of land that you would want at this point in the game. I feel like what I mean is like if I owned land over here, I probably couldn't push that much control with the roads, because the roads of the game kind of don't. Later game roads I could, but early game roads kind of don't push that far. So Portugal is actually like, in a weird way, like really ideal, because this is kind of like the end of where roads are valuable in the early game, and so it's kind of like roads are like really good for Portugal. But if I had more land, it wouldn't really like have more value. Like for example, I just want to explain this. So it would be more valuable for me to take this land than like this, right? So if I wanted to conquer more, and I actually do later, I would want to conquer stuff that's near the coast, not stuff that's more inland, because I couldn't really propagate my control to those provinces at the moment. I don't have roads that are that strong, and there's a giant gap in roads early game. So early game you have level 1 roads, and you go 1337, but you're not going to get level 2 roads until 1537, or a little bit after, of course, because you need time to embrace institutions and all that sort of thing. So my point being is like it's a long ass time before you can get better roads, and then after that it's going to be the other roads are like then just 100 years, but the gap between these is 200 years, where the gap between the later game is only 100. Yeah, I need to remember that. Like it's called a location, yeah. But anyway, so you can see how like naval is so powerful early game because you don't really have the option to get better roads for a long time. What?
Can you unwrap that for me?
Hold on, I'm helping the girlfriend for a sec. Hun?
It's like right there.
You want to put it on?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
Thanks.
Sure. All right. Sorry, guys. Our kitten attacked the girlfriend. She needed to help get the band-aid. Okay. So basically, economy like is kind of what we're doing. But again, so we slowly integrate this land. Again, we took this land early. We didn't declare these wars, but we took a little bit of the land. And same type of thing here, where it's like we're gonna get insane value, and we're building a lot of ships now, right? We have like 15 ships here, here, and we're setting them to patrol. We have to be careful when we ever go to war, because these are trade ships essentially, right? And they're trade ship. They're light ships. So if we fight Castile, for example, like his ships would crush us because we don't have heavy ships. But it's the same thing, right? Like over here, it's the same value, where it's kind of like, you have this idea where you have really good naval presence, and eventually, like later on in the game, like a lot later, I actually will take like land like this, because again, I'm getting the value, like I'm getting so much value from the only problem with this, you can see there's mountains here, and these are much harder to push through. So it's not quite as good if I go over those mountains, but it's still doable. But I do lose a bit more control when I do have to go over those mountains. But you can kind of see the idea of how we're going to play Portugal is that we're going to, early game at least, right, is that the roads aren't going to let us push that control much further in than that. So there's not like a lot of like, I guess if I wasn't lazy, I probably would have taken like, more land like over here as well. Because that would, I didn't attack Aragon, but I think that would be like the optimal way to play, is that you would want to just like take that and then take that and then leave the rest, for later. They give you, so the way that the naval presence works is that basically, depending on, you're gonna like, there's gonna be other people that have ships in the region, right? And there'll be like a ticking modifier for, I think it's like naval presence or something like that. But there's the map mode for it that I didn't know existed. But anyways, so that'd be the kind of the idea. And unfortunately, I haven't really like, I need to do some more playing around with this. But economy became pretty insanely easy because I have like, think about like so a lot, and part of this is like, okay, crown land. Crown land is, it gives bonuses if you're above, and because crown land has a lot to do with your average control. So if you have really good average control, then your crown power, and also remember we're centralized, and centralized gives like plus 50% to crown power as well. So it's kind of like this stack of crown power as well. But the point being is that we're easily able to get like much higher crown power than I'm normally getting in my campaigns, because this is a lot stronger than bailiffs ever were, right? Like let's say that my furthest provinces away are still like maybe 60 or 70 control, whereas with bailiffs I was only getting like 42. So this is like much better than bailiffs would have been. So just to give you an idea of like, this is better than pre-nerf bailiffs. if that, like, the better feeling than that. So, right. We're able to, but it just also, Portugal also has insane tax value. I told you that earlier, but they have like plus 25% tax modifier. And so I'm kind of leaning into this whole idea of just like taxing everything. And if you watch Generalist, you probably know that tax is like where the value is. But anyways, so we're kind of just doing that, where we're kind of just building up our nation. But then, we start colonizing, and Portugal can colonize a little bit faster than anyone else, and a little bit better than anyone else, because they have more range. Because they have, like, their unique ideas are based on, they have like one that's like based on range for your like colonial range. So they're not able to get to the New World any faster than, like, they have to wait till 1437 to get the ability to go to the New World, but they're able to go to Africa much sooner than other nations. So they can kind of push towards Africa sooner than I could as like a Castile or a France, because of this unique tech. So, anyways, that's kind of the idea of what we're doing in our campaign, though, is we're just kind of building, like, we're playing semi-tall. Again, I didn't conquer this area until like 1500. So other than those, so basically, like, I don't really declare any offensive wars for at least 200 years. I get attacked twice, but really, I'm not really declaring any offensive wars. And it's actually, I will say that the quote unquote tall gameplay is like way more fun. Like, I'm enjoying doing that. It's fun because you get to kind of like think about, like, oh, how are you gonna build up your nation? Are you gonna build up like libraries so you can get better tech speed? Are you gonna build, like factories? And like stuff like adjusting the prices is kind of interesting. And there's just so many options with buildings. It's not. Uh, I know I'm not really going into the building mechanics, but that would be kind of probably boring for you guys, anyways. And I'm not very, like, who knows? I don't exactly know what I'm doing, but I have a good idea. But like, I feel like upgrading RGOs is very much how I like. I want to max my RGOs first, and before we do that, of course, we're going to build lumber mills. So right, so yeah, we're going to max RGOs, and we always want to make sure when we're maxing RGOs that we're paying negative 50% cost. And this is one of the only games that have ever been like maxed RGOs. Like, this campaign is the most money I made with any nation that I played, by like a long shot too. Probably like just early, just in the sense of like so early. Maybe the one exception would be like the HRE, but that's literally the whole of Europe, right? But again, since we have maxed all our RGOs, we also have like a ton of food, so we never really have any issues with food, because yeah, like, everything's maxed. Yeah, but right. We do go. We're so rich though. And by the way, it's pretty crazy, because let's say that we make like 300 a month, right? Okay, so we make 300 a month, but during tax season, you make 600. So that year is essentially like it's worth a lot more, right? Because you're getting double the money every month. So whenever we have parliament, it kind of boosts our economy in a massive way. And that's every 5 years. So every 5 years, and people might get mad that we're taxing them the max, but it doesn't really matter. Like, I have bigger armies than I would ever have usually too. So right, so I have like I have tons of armies, like standing armies, because I'm so rich. And yeah, 300. What do you mean? Like, I'm talking like I'm making 300 a month in like 1460 or 1470. By the way, so if you're talking about starting in 1444 and making 300 a month, I think that'd be pretty insane, right? No, that's not total income. That's my positive balance. Like, I'm making 300 more. So, anyways, we get to the point where we start colonizing, and I'm able to pay 1,000 a month in colonization at that point because economy scale is crazy. So like, if I'm making you know like by 1,500, I could take that 300 a month into like 1,000 a month of bonus. But anyways, I'm able to pay by like 1520. I'm paying like 1,000 a month for colonization. And obviously, like this is where it comes to kind of a point of like I'm pushing for nerfs, if that makes sense, because it's ridiculous how much I can colonize, right? I can call like imagine that so you colonize provinces. Remember, a province is like a state. Okay, so and I'm not just colonizing. I'm colonizing in Africa, um, Africa, North America, South America, and the Caribbean, which right. So at the same time, and I can literally colonize all of the Caribbean at the same time. That's what I do actually. Like the entirety of it. Like I'd like click it all, and I send off a million guys, you know, a bunch of guys, and but just to put you in, like let me just give you some scale of like just to make sense of this. There is 4 times as like imagine EU like in general the game is like 4 times bigger. So there's like 4 times as much you know stuff, but so remember we colonize in provinces. But a province in this game is a state. So imagine that if let's just say on average or something that each province is 5 locations. Okay. I did not reach 1822. I only played till like 1550 ish so far, and then I was kind of like, I was too rich, you know. Like I was like, you know, you get to the point where you're like, man, I'm just too rich. I say that, but I mean, it could have been fun to do other things. I could still play that campaign, but there's just other things I want to try. But also performance is kind of an issue. Like it's not just that I'm bored; it's also that performance kind of slows down. In the 1550s for me, it's not terrible, but it's also just kind of like I'd rather just have like, and I can lower my settings to fix it, and that does work. But my point being is like performance does take a hit in the 1500s a bit, and things kind of slow down to the point where, and you know, it's like I'm so like, but like I think I would play more if the performance wasn't slowing down, but. I have a 70. What are my specs? I tell people ask me all this all the time. It's a 7800 X3D or something like that. I think. So like look it up. Yeah, it's a 7800 X3D. Well, I think. Yeah. It's a pretty nice. No, almost that. 78. I think it's 78 though. I'm looking at it now. It's on it's this. This is what I have. Which should you usually consider late game? What do you mean by that? Or just when it starts lagging? Okay. I think let me give you like a theory for you guys. I think that the game is more laggy because I've explored so much. Because normally the game isn't this laggy for me, but because of that I've explored so much, it's actually slowing my like performances seems to be worse when you explore a lot. Because honestly, like if I played in Europe, then it wouldn't be like this. So again, I think that like you're shooting yourself in the foot by exploring so much because I can see like all of Africa, like a bunch of Africa and a bunch and like most of the New World, and there's a lot going on, like more than usual. So I think that's part of why what the issue was, but it's not like crazy bad either. just imagine that instead of being on 5 speed, you're on 4 speed. And it's just like, for me, it's like, I would rather try a new nation than play on a lower speed. And I've already played like as a colonial nation, and I guess to me the exploration isn't that appealing to me, and I probably won't be doing it for the foreseeable future for a while. Like it is doesn't really seem that it's not that interesting to me, I guess, and it doesn't really give you a lot of value. So like I think it's one of those things that's like a long-term investment, and that yes, I did play through the treaty of the situation a bit, but I kind of just ignored it. But like the treaty looks kind of cool because the treaty works like you can like claim land. There's lots of cool things with the treaty. You can like claim certain colonial land that for you, and then you can you can like ask England to like transfer some of the land because England was there in America with me. How long on average? I don't think. Again, by the way, guys, I will tell you that I don't really see a big performance change for me on ultra to very low until the late game. Meaning that like how to I don't really feel like ultra. I don't know why that is, but I don't really feel like the game runs any faster when I play in lowest settings for me. It runs pretty well on highest though. And I don't know. I have a 4080 Super as well, if you guys are curious what graphics card I use. So my build isn't like bad. I have a pretty solid PC. But I was experiencing, and normally I can play in the 1500s and I don't get that much lag. But I think again because again I think it has more to do that I had so much of the map explored, and I mean also I think in this build you're probably gonna get more lag than you would have in the previous build because you have like the AI is way better. The AI is doing a lot more stuff. The AI is going to a lot of wars. Like the AI is fighting. You know, you'll see a lot. Like I think if I kept playing that I'd probably see like a Russia form. The AI does a lot of wars now because they have money. So like the Ottomans are killing Byzantium and things like that, right? But really the Ottomans aren't really the Ottomans. Egypt is the new Ottomans. Just if you guys are wondering, like who's the big bad? Well, it's freaking Egypt. I don't know. I think mostly it seems like Novgorod is the strong nation in EU5 that comes out on top. Like Novgorod is very, very powerful. I would say that like the map. I don't know. Egypt just feels like they're so hard to overcome as the Ottomans, and I don't think the AI could ever. Like as a player, you will struggle to deal with the Mamluks as the Ottomans. Just saying. Yes, they're very powerful. In fact, they generally are like the military hegemon and represent probably the strongest nation in the game, militarily, Egypt. And part of it is because Egypt has insane value. Like there's a lot of population there, in that area, and there's just a lot of value there. I haven't really played in that region, to be honest, but yeah. So but I would say that there is Egypt is really scary, and right. But I will say that I was giga rich, but it still was really hard for me to fight Castile. By the way, like it was just a tough war because the AI is not an idiot now, and they have professional troops too. So, even though I was super rich and I fought, like I'm telling you, what I mean is, when I fought Castile in the 1500s, it was way harder than when I fought them early game. Thank you. Can you? So, anyways, what I'm saying though is that like it wouldn't really be easy for me to like push over like everyone, and like world conquest wouldn't really be an option as Portugal from here. I mean, it could be, but it would be hard to do something like that. But I think in general, I would just like to, like, if we want to talk about like balance wise, I think that like I'm hitting that point of having too much money too soon. I think that I want to frame this very specifically. Slavic was playing on the last patch in his AAR though. By the way, so you have to take everything that in with that mindset that the economy, like the AI sucked in his patch. The AI did nothing in the last patch. The AI is night and day different. So anyways, if I wanted to like go into the feedback, you guys probably, I mean, some of you aren't going to like this, some of the feedback that, and I think that where I stand and where the community stands might be a little bit different, but I feel, let me just kind of write this down for you guys. The game is really fun, but I think that certain areas, like just to say, like colonization feels like we're going to need a DLC, and I'm okay with that. I know that not everyone will have that opinion, but that's just kind of like how I feel. Like I don't feel like it's very, there's just not, it's like super stale to me, but I don't really mind that that's going to have to come later, if that makes sense. I was economic hegemon, so I made the most money in the game by like 15, maybe 1500s. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say it is. I know some people are going to like that, but I think the reality is that like I played a game as like Maya or something, right? Maya. And it definitely, I had a fun time, but it definitely feels like it's something that, like, you know, kind of needs a DLC to really. It's just not, you know, like they're focusing on the major nations first, and I'm not. I'm okay with that. The reason I say that is because when you're a colonial nation, it's like it's really interesting because you don't have access to a lot of resources, so it's like it's just really fun to play because you're really also really poor and you're trying to like it's just difficult to like stay afloat. And then you have like other colonial nations that are like causing you problems, right? You're like, oh, England's here and the Ottomans are here colonizing as well, and I'm, you know, like it's more of a struggle. It's an economy struggle, but it's also really hard to get independence because, you know, like the nations there are so rich. And the AI, by the way, like if I will say the AI is so much better at that. Like if you do, let me explain this. If you go to war with a nation, they will show up 100%. Like if you like if you play EU4 and you would think like, oh, they're not going to show up. Like you need to get rid of that mindset. They're going to show up. Like you know, like let's say that you're Byzantium and you're fighting Serbia, who's allied to England. England's going to show up, and you have to expect that every time. So like I try to get independent, and if I try to get independence, they're going to show up with everything they own to stop you from getting independence. I literally could not get independence from Sweden in the 200 years I played. I could not. I tried. You can, and there is no such thing as support independence in the game. You cannot get support for independence. So you have to be able to get independence by yourself. You might be able to maybe. I don't. Again, I don't know too much of that, but like it was. I could not figure out how to get independence from Sweden because, like, I just couldn't. I wasn't able to generate enough money to have a big enough army, and there's like not a lot of. That's why the New World. That's why playing as a colony was interesting because it's so hard. Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe that's like specific to Wales too. Who's Sweden under? What do you mean? So again, part of the issue why it was so hard is, remember, I played Sweden, and I didn't like, and I you know, even though I didn't understand naval and stuff, I had a pretty well built up Sweden. So it's not like this is like AI Sweden here. It's like this is a pretty strong Sweden that I developed myself, and they have like lots of armies and you know pretty. So it's, but it would be even harder nowadays, to be honest. You know, because now that I figured out the whole naval thing. No, I can tell you honestly that I played a colonization for 200 years, and I probably tried the independence war like every like 20 to 50 years or something, and I could never do it. That's why I needed to work with Generalist and be like, hey man, I really need help with the economy because I can't do this. You know, too, like I can't figure this out. It's very hard in the new world because you don't have a lot of population and you're trying to, you know, have an army that can work, and it's just like you're so strapped on money. No, they don't care. No. Oh, by the way, the AI is going to peace out 10 times faster. Like I think it's even too fast. Like what I mean is that like your allies will not stick around in war like more than a year. It's interesting. So if you think you're going to get carried by somebody in a war, it will not work out for you. Like when I was playing Sweden and I tried to call in Bohemia to fight Novgorod, it helped for a while, but like he's gone after a year. He will not continue to. He is like that's the AI will not help you at all like beyond like a year. So I'm just saying, like, if you want to rely on allies, you better be able to win that war quickly. It's the same for enemy allies, yeah. Just in general, people will peace out pretty fast. So it's super common that you'll declare a war and it will turn into a 1v1. So you kind of like you kind of have to try to get some advantage before that point. No, honestly, no. It's just because the AI will peace out within that time frame. Like the AI wants to only help you. The AI just doesn't want to be in war. They could be making money. PUs aren't functionally real. I think PUs are not worth it, but yes, technically, Sweden has Norway, but they're not, it's not like a union, right? I don't know. How about native nations? So when I played my like I feel like it was impossible. Like it would have been. So I played in a patch where the AI wouldn't declare war, so obviously that's a little bit scuffed, right? But when I played that way, I was so I mean, I had 12.5 million people and I got put down to 3 million people from smallpox. Like it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And yeah, and you're so far behind them in technology. Like I don't even know. Yeah, the one I played Maya. How much stronger is Sweden than Norway? What do you mean by that? Oh, probably similar, but you start as a union, so you can't like go to war with them. Oh, I'm muted. Sorry, I thought I was. I didn't realize I was muted. War exhaustion is more well. For one, you couldn't do like a war exhaustion strategy because if you hit max war exhaustion, then you will like auto peace out. Also, similarly, if you don't if you declare a war and you don't get the war, like the war objective within a certain amount of time, the war would end as well. So there's definitely things like that. But yeah, war exhaustion can be an issue because it has really, really punishing effects on morale. So if you try to continue to fight with high war exhaustion, you might just be losing those wars because you have such a negative morale penalty. Like I think it's to the extent of like -50% morale if it's like near max. Like that's kind of bad, right? Like you're gonna get destroyed, and the AI knows that. Like they'll look at you and be like, oh, that's an easy war. That guy has no morale. You want something crazy? I was playing England, and then I got a civil war, and France truce broke me because he saw that I had a civil war. Literally, truce broke me. I was like, what the hell? He's like, oh, that looks free. I think it's bad in general that the AI does that because it hurts them so much. But it's interesting because like the antagonism is insane that he got for doing that. But I'm like, it's kind of funny, huh? Just in the sense of like, yeah, he might be like, The thing is, though, is that it wasn't a good war for him to declare because civil war. Once the civil war ends, like I think the game is like analyzing my nation now that is like half fragment. I only have half my nation for a minute, so it declares war, thinking that that's the case. No, truce break costs stability too, so the France took like a massive stab in antagonism hit. Oh, it's a massive stab hit because he also knows he truce break knows CB'd me. So I was thinking like that's interesting they do that, but the AI probably should not do that. They're working a lot in the AI though. So and let me give you, if you guys want me just to tell you like what I perceive that they're working on the most, I could tell you. And I would say the number one thing is AI. And then I've heard that they're working a lot on colonization, some changes there, which I think would be interesting. So these are like the number one and two things that I understand that they're working on right now. And then I think three is just optimization, like performance. I would say that these are the things I think they're working on mostly right now. How often do you get declared on? I mean, I got declared on twice in the Portugal game, but it's just kind of like a thing of like, if the AI feels like they're stronger than you, they're likely to declare war. I don't know exactly. Like, it's a very vague to me as well, right? No, but I'm too strong in the late game, so it's hard to know, right? Also, colonization has a bit of an issue that I don't like is that you can't like. So you can have your colony go to war, but the colony it doesn't like in EU4 how if you're a colonial nation you could go to war on your own. You can't do that, which I think is like I hope they change that because that takes away a lot of the fun. Like I want to go to war with like England's colony or something, right? Or the Ottomans. Yes, the Ottomans colony. The Ottomans are dude, they showed up and they colonized so fast. Oh, I do want to warn you guys though, as a final thought, don't think of Portugal as this like beginner friendly nation. Like in EU4, you're kind of like you would go and you're kind of protected, and you could kind of chill and learn the game. Like that's not Portugal of EU5. Portugal of EU5 is like Castile's going to destroy you, and he might just truce break you if he feels like it. But and it's kind of hard to get any allies because you're kind of far away. But I think that I don't know. I imagine that when you guys play EU5 versus when I have, it'll be a different experience because you just have so much more access to knowledge than I did, right? Like I think they're probably going to work on some sort of like wiki. You'll have a lot of resources, you know, a lot of stuff like that. I've never played Serbia, so I don't know. They don't look particularly hard though. They are pretty strong, I would say. They're pretty strong. I think you could probably go after Byzantium pretty early with the help of Bulgaria as those guys and do pretty well. I don't know. I haven't really played them, but they're not the Serbia. Like if the game feels a lot different in that sense. Like Serbia, you know how Serbia is just like this little tiny nation that you easily can conquer in EU4, right? Like it's not like that in EU5. Like they are a significant threat, and it's same with Wallachia. Like those guys in that region are not they're not easy. Hello. So what issue I have with the game is that I constantly accidentally lose allies. I I hope I haven't made feedback about this, but maybe somebody else has. Essentially, what happens is you get like a little flag that pops up. It doesn't tell you that you're going to war. Like there's just like a little flag that comes on your screen. If you don't click it, you're going to lose your alliance. So like a lot of times I'll just accidentally lose allies that way. Like you know, in EU4, it'd pop up in the middle of your screen, be like, "Do you want to accept this or not?" Right? I mean, how would I know if a nation I haven't played is easier than you know 2 other nations I have played? I don't know. Though I think they may have changed something that I want to test. Is I think you might be able to modify like you might be able to modifier stack by forming different nations now. Maybe, but you can only form into 4 different nations anyways, right? Because of the way it works. But or technically you could only form into 3 more nations. But I think maybe you can. I'm not for sure though on that. So I think they said they didn't want that initially, but I think they got some feedback from different people, especially like, you know, like I think Flory gave some feedback that he wanted that adjusted. Are good relations enough? Yeah, like generally, yeah. I mean, generally, like I don't think weather has any. That's a question that's like, just because I don't think weather has any impact doesn't mean it doesn't. I would say that. Like, I don't understand. Weather seems to do nothing, but that doesn't mean that it actually does nothing. That means that I perceive it to do nothing. I just want to be clear there. Like, I want you to, guys, when you think about me playing EU5, imagine playing EU4, except you have no resources to learn the game other than you just playing. Just imagine how much slower you would learn things, right? Like, you can't look up something. There's no wiki. There's like no resource available. The winters don't really affect much. I feel like the one thing in the game you have to pay attention to is okay, you do keep the previous advances. Right. I'm just saying, like, you know, like I could be giving you guys tons of wrong info because there's just no resources. It's such a weird experience, honestly, playing the game like this and learning. Like I'm just saying, like I think me learning the game is always going to be like probably it was more of a rough experience than you guys will have to deal with because the game's actually going to be like real, you know, ready to be played. But B, you have resources out there that are going to help. Like I could save myself an immense amount of time if I was able to like, you know, go back in time and tell myself like, these are the things you're gonna, you know, pay attention to. The game's not as complex as it looks on the surface. Yeah, the winters could be annoying in that sense because, yeah, like half the year your stuff doesn't build. That is true, but it's not like I don't like winter. Like honestly, I think they should change this. You can't, like, you're not allowed to move troops in winter, right? At all. And I feel like that's like, like I was talking to Hannibal the other day, and he was kind of upset about that because you literally just can't move your troops in the winter through mountains. No, I don't try to avoid navies, but maybe or storms, but maybe I should. Yeah, you cannot walk through mountains in winter. And winter feels like it's forever. Like I swear it's like November to like May, maybe. It feels like it's forever and it's always winter. Now, what I would like is that you can't. I would like that there would be severe penalties for crossing in the middle of winter instead of just you can't. Like maybe something so harsh that you wouldn't want to do it, but you still could. Are battles harder to catch? Guys, I will tell you, the right click on an army is like you're gonna love this. Where you like see an army and you just right click it, and then your army is gonna go chase that army. Like you guys are gonna absolutely love this. It's so good. It feels so good. Like you don't have to like chase down an army forever. Like you could just like you click and then your army's gonna do that, and then you can go look at somewhere else. And I'm telling you, it's like one of the best things. Like it's so nice. It's probably like maybe one of my favorite features. I know it's simple, but exactly. Like you can just right click an army, and what's crazy? It might even be like technically I think it's a little bit OP right now because um your army will chase that army even if they come out of vision. Like it's kind of broken, right? Like I haven't said anything about that because I don't mind it. But like you can lose vision and your army will still chase them. Like it will chase them to the edge. It will chase them to the edge of the earth until they until it finds that army. It doesn't matter if that army if like you don't know where that army is anymore. No, you can't in your own territory. They should probably fix that, but I haven't said anything because I like it. It's a feature for everything. What do you mean with navies? Yeah. So there's when you right click on a like it's basically if you right click an army or a navy, they are going to chase down that army or navy. And yeah. So that's really nice. Well, I mean, it's going to run in and get killed. The only issue with this, by the way, is it's a little bit risky because if you like, let's say that you were in like Castile and you told your guys to track down someone in France, right? Well, by the time you get to France, your armies are going to have no morale and you're going to suicide and die. So you have to be like a little bit careful. Yeah, I played Ulm, which is a republic. And Venice, which is a merchant republic, I think. No, no army micro builder. I would say that is the number one thing that I wish they would have that they don't. But I said that in the past. That is the number one feature that I would request, like as the first DLC or something, I guess. How do elections work? Basically, you just get like it's not that interesting. You just like get to pick between 3 different rulers, and you're just gonna basically pick the highest stat ones. That's basically what happens when your ruler dies. How do you make armies? How I make armies generally is you build one troop, and then there's an option to like recruit more people to that army. Is generally like the way that I would do it. So there is like you can use somewhat of a macro ability to add people to that stack. So that's what I would do. I would build a. Oh, you know what's also amazing? Speaking of random things, so for one, let's say that you have like a stack here, right? Like let's say you have 20 guys here, or whatever, 200 guys, and then you have a stack here, and let's say you send these guys off. If you right click this stack here, it will merge with that stack. Like it's very, very nice. Like all you gotta do is right click it, and it's like it's gonna merge into that stack regardless of where you move these troops. Like you could move these troops like down here, and it's still gonna go and stack with those, and it's gonna auto consolidate as well. So you don't have to like sit there and you don't have to like consolidate every time your armies come together. There's also a really nice button that is like merge. So if you want to select like, let's say you want to select 3 different stacks of guys, and it and like this, and it will merge to the biggest stack of guys. Like there's just a button that does that. It's super nice. Really, really a fan of that. It's ideal. So those are some of my favorite like army features. And I would say, I mean, if you want I guess I could just go through give you an opinion on different things. I feel like transporting troops is worse than it was before. I don't know why. Boats just don't like to listen even more. No, I don't know anything. I don't really know about the army flanks or. I think they should add they have like a balance army thing now, but it doesn't auto balance, and I like forget to do it a lot. So you have like 3 lines that you guys fight in, and a lot of times like you won't, if you don't hit balance, it'll go like you'll just go into a battle and it's like bad because you have a little front line and then like a huge reinforcement stack, but you're gonna lose if someone has like a real line. Yeah, boats just feel like they don't. Okay, here's the issue with boats. Partially, is that, well, for one, I literally don't understand how to tell how many troops a boat will take, but like, let's say you have a boat that can't actually transport. Like, let's say you have, like, I'm playing Portugal and I have light ships, right? And they don't transport troops, but the game will tell you that they can. Like you can select this, and it'll be like, do you want to use your boats to do that? And you'll hit yes, and then nothing happens because there is no transport ships. So it's like that freaking triggers me because you're like, dude, what? Yeah, because those ships can't do that, but the game's like gaslighting you into thinking that that it can. That's a minor detail, though. It's whatever. They'll probably get that fixed, hopefully by release or something. Are enemy blocks something you have to worry about? Definitely. Yeah, they give a lot of war score. But I mean, I guess you don't really have to. It's like EU4. It's like it's bad, but like, do you really need to deal with it? Not necessarily. It's just like very similar to that. I'd say. Like I don't think it's like that important to deal with, so long as you're, But it is like a war score modifier that you're you're gonna have, and it's gonna hurt your economy and stuff like that. So like it has impact, but it's similar to the impact of EU4. Like it's not ideal for you, but it's also like you could probably just ignore it if you're able to win the war on land. I do have to say though that I played a little bit of Victoria, and that definitely actually helped me with the idea of the economy. Just in the sense of like I find that building, a lot of times a good way to do it is like sort your goods by what's the most valuable and what's in the most demand, and then you can build those goods, and that will generate some nice income for you. And that's something that I did in Victoria. 0. Yeah, Byron. 0. The problem with food is that it's like it's just super abusable. Because like, okay, let's say that you're going to war with Castile and he's got a fort here, right? Well, and let's say that you go in here and you go to the fort and you notice that your food's getting low. So all you got to do is just like walk back with half your stack. So then what you do is split your stack into 2, and then you just like rotate them like this, right? So like you'll just like every like month or so. It's like super tedious to do, but you can completely avoid food if you do that. So like yeah, you could just like, cuz the province before has food, right? But the fort might. It's just like it's a mechanic that you can just abuse it every time if you want. I'm not saying like you should like I'm not. I guess I'm not ever saying you should use mechanics, but that's a question that I just don't know the answer to. Because like sometimes I lose battles and I'm like, I don't know why I lost that battle, but maybe it was because terrain. Does that make sense? Like that's just one of those things. It's like I don't really know. But yeah, sometimes I'll lose battles and I'll be like, why did I lose? And I literally have no idea. Like that definitely happens, and I'm sure there is a reason, but it's just like I don't. I feel like they don't give you good info. By the way, like the UI does not provide good info on why you lost or won a battle a lot of the times. Like the biggest indicator would be like is it a levy versus the professional armies? But sometimes sometimes like for whatever reason or the other, my professional troops can lose to levies. And maybe that's like it could be like terrain or that they have low morale from marching so far. You know. Oh, 100%. Yeah, you're putting yourself at risk to do that. But also it's like you don't really, even if you just want to you could also just ignore the food penalty, right? Like you could just sit there and lose a couple hundred troops a month and whatever. Does that make sense? Like and like if you get in a scenario where you have no food, it's probably just like you could just assault instead, which I'll do a lot, right? Like if you don't have food and you know you're going to lose troops anyways, well, maybe you should just assault, because if you do that, you don't need food anymore, right? And you'll probably take a similar amount of losses or whatever if you would have starved your troops. Does that make sense? Haven't seen much info on this. Is it possible to get a strong cultural hegemony such culture influence? What do you mean by that? I don't know what you mean. No, wars are like shorter in the EU5, generally speaking. Like, and even the AI is like the AI like the game is pushing you to not be at war that long, kind of. I would say like wars are like on average like 2 to 3 years. Like on a longer war where you can't win immediately, right? But again, early game, it's definitely a thing that your wars are shorter in the early game. I think more of the idea of backstabber is that the AI wants to peace out sooner. Like I don't know, I'm not necessarily talking about the player like me warring, but like just like player like the enemy wars, I guess, or like the AI doesn't want to be at war for longer than a few years. Like they get a lot of war exhaustion. I have a bone to pick. Like I have made feedback about the war system though that's like super frustrating. Like if you're winning, let's say that you're like I had this problem where I was Prussia and I'm winning against France. And this was the last build where the AI like did nothing, right? But they had so many levies that there's like this idea of like military balance. And it is super huge. So military balance. And I even say this is like super broken for like a world conquest or something. Because it's worth 50 enthusiasm. Basically. This the idea of military balance. So if you have like a much bigger army and you declare on somebody, it's like immediately they're terrified of you and they want to peace out like instantaneously, right? But if you're fighting someone that's bigger than you, it's like they never want to leave and it's like hard to do anything. Like imagine that you're fighting France and 50 war score means nothing because they have a plus 50 modifier because army balance, even if it's levies. They just have so many levies, right? And I said that this is kind of silly. I wrote some feedback that was like, I'm okay with it being a thing, but it probably shouldn't be worth 50. That seems excessive that I can't get anything with 50 war score as Prussia. And it's just like, well, with Prussia, my armies are more like, they're Prussian, they're Space Marines. I'm not gonna have a lot of them. But I should, like I just wish that they would value that a little differently because I fought France, I couldn't do anything. He had like levies, and I've got Space Marines, but I don't have a lot of Space Marines, and he's got a lot of levies. In some ways, yeah. Province war score is still tied to control. Yeah. So it definitely is a lot easier to take land that's further away from their control. But the AI also is getting much better at getting control. The AI builds a lot of roads now. Like the AI is improving, and I expect it to improve a lot more too. So it actually is a thing that will hurt you. And I think that there's gonna. I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic that they can get this game in good shape before. Like, there's just not that. Like when I think about the things I don't like, they're like, you know, they're like, oh, the AI has too many forts, but soon the AI is not gonna have too many forts because it's being taught, or like it's being programmed to value money a lot, so it's not gonna want to build as many forts. Like, they're just getting better. Like, the devs are locking it in. And so stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, I think they could definitely get to the right point. Or like what we talked about with Portugal today. All they got to do is just some numbers and make naval control a little bit weaker, and then I think it's going to be in a lot better spot. So I guess my point is that I'm pretty optimistic because I mean you guys know that I've been someone that's been I'm probably I might be the most critical content creator that has early access, if I'm being honest. And I know some people don't like that, but I think it's probably more helpful for the devs. I'm just not a very sugarcoat type of person. Like, it's not it's like something I need to be better about, especially, but I mean, I guess I don't, but like, you know what I mean? It's just a personality type. Like, I'm a little bit like that as like in general. I'm not very, I can be kind of mean. Some people really don't like that though, because they think I'm always negative, and I can understand that. Where like I'm going to be harsh about the way I feel about things because I guess I don't know. I guess I don't see the point of hiding it, but some people, like, man, people on Reddit do not like me. If I look at Reddit, or some people don't like me because they think I'm like a doomer and super negative. But I mean, the thing is that they've listened to a ton of my feedback because I've been negative, right? Like they watch the. I will tell you that, like, I think Johan watches all my videos, and and a lot of changes have been made. It's kind of weird because I will tell you that I have had a large influence on the game, which is weird. Not like a crazy large, but you know what I mean. Like, definitely the game is different because of me. The version of the game is different than you would because of me playing. And I probably put in one of them. I put in a lot of time too, but it's cool because it feels like the devs are respecting my time. Like, they're giving me early access, and I'm giving them a lot of feedback, and a lot of that feedback is being directly implemented or at least looked at, right? Which is kind of what I want. I'm not saying they should implement all my feedback, but I'd like them to be like, all right, let's consider what he's saying. Like, certain nerfs happened as a direct result of me, right? Like, war store costs used to be crazy. You know, but a lot of times I want to break things in a way like this Portugal game, for example, right? Like, I'm gonna make a video about it, and if they see that, they might think, oh, we need to, like, I would actually be willing to bet that there'll be adjustments based off the video I make. And same with Generalist too. Like, Generalist has got a lot of stuff nerfed because he'll be like, look at this is crazy, I'm making tons of money, right? And then they'll look at that and be like, oh, I see. And that's why I actually think being Generalist are really good for the game, because I'm the Conquest focused player. I'm the Conquest min maxer. He's the economy min maxer. And so whenever we do things, a lot of people are gonna, like, I think people will benefit from us wanting to make the game harder. So yeah, that's kind of like, and again, I've kind of stopped doing EU4 content just to focus on. That's why it's unfortunate, but I have to make. I have to make videos, and people are like, "Oh, I wish you'd play EU4 instead of just painting." But it's like, I'm sorry, but I want to help make the game as good as possible, and I still need to make money. So, you know what I mean? And like, I think Paradox likes me for what I don't think they just hate me. You know, they're I think they know that I'm critical, but yeah, it's like I want the game to be a challenging and also fun experience for people. But yeah, I get a lot of people that are, you know, upset about me not doing that and stuff. No, I mean, I kind of a, you know, like an unpaid tester, but in the same way, I guess I'm not an unpaid tester because I'm able to make content out of it that does generate money. You know what I mean? Like it's like a weird scenario where it's like I'm helping them, but I still need to get my part of the profit. So like, you know, and you know, I thought about it. It's like, yeah, I'll probably just be doing this type of thing until the game comes out. Like I don't know that I'll really play much more U4 if I'm being honest. Right. I think that a lot of other people do. And I think the reality too is that through my experience playing the game is that if you have like there's a bunch of you know newer creators that are you know getting access now and you know more maybe the more the because they're you know they're getting ready for launch and they want all these people to be ready with their content, but it's kind of hard to get like before you have 200 hours, it's like your feedback is not ideal, you know what I mean? Like you're like, "Oh, this feels too hard." And if you have 50 hours and you're saying that, that's the problem. Like it just doesn't really help. Whereas since I played it so long, I kind of like have a good feel. But yeah, I think there's going to be I think there's like for example, if a newer player played Portugal, they would probably get cooked. If I'm being like, and you wouldn't think Portugal is a nation that would happen, right? Where well, that's just kind of the nature of the game. And I think that some people actually didn't like that. That you know, that certain nations don't feel like they're like very easy. But yeah, I know people don't like when I like break things, but like it's also that I literally know if like I'm showing these things intentionally because I know they're going to be seen. How secure Alliance is? Pretty secure. Yeah, I can't tell you that obviously. You know, what am I going to do? Like just tell you when you know? Like I just that's not reasonable, right? I don't like. Yeah, I don't know what their plans are. I know that I'll be involved in that, but I don't really know. You know exactly what their plans are. But yeah, I'll definitely. I'm just happy to be a part of it, and yeah, but I mean I think it's really cool just having this like this rare life experience, right? Where it's like is invited out to Spain, got to meet all these developers, and I've been like actively helping them with their process. It's just been kind of a neat experience. And I mean, just even just the whole content creator thing, right? It's definitely been a unique experience to, you know, go. I always think like, or I think to myself a lot, like, you know, regardless of where I go with all this, I'll, you know, it'll just be a cool part of something cool in life that I got to experience. Yeah, it was so cool they invited someone small like me to Spain. I was blown away with that. And, you know, that's just like a very cool moment in, you know, like in life. Just to I got to meet probably like I don't know. I was most excited to meet Zlevik for some reason because I learned so much from the game with him, but he was really cool to meet in real life and like, you know, got to meet his you know, his wife and kid and kind of talk to him about you know, just on a level that you wouldn't talk to him otherwise. So I'm like, that's kind of cool. I'm just saying it's a neat experience from you know going from you know being a fan of the game to having some success with content. You know, it's just kind of you know. Imagine thinking 2 years ago, you know, like when I started doing this thing that I would be invited to Spain, like you know what I mean? Yeah, Reddit likes to talk about me, but I'm you know I'm a small little creator, you know, compared to to all the scene. No, I did not get to meet Lemon Cake or a student. Which is too bad because Lemon Cake's probably he's like my closest creator friend. So it was too bad. I was bummed out that he didn't get to go. Yeah, I make a lot of noise. I think the reason I make a lot of noise is because there's not a lot of people that are, I guess, as vocal, or I guess people just don't make a lot of content or talking about the gameplay. But to be fair, I think they're a lot of them are still doing like Red Hawk's still doing EU4 content. It's like I kind of just like have abandoned that and have just focused on this, and like this is my full-time job type of thing. But I'm investing a lot of my time into learning the game so I can make good content on release, but also trying to make the game better when it comes out. But it's really cool. It's just a neat experience, and it is cool. So it was just a real experience, like sitting across the table from Johan in Spain and talking about different things. Very, very interesting. Definitely like imposter syndrome going on. Like, did they accidentally invite me and they felt bad because they didn't want to like take it away, or or something weird. So that's how I felt. Do I think your playstyle will change with the game? Oh, definitely once in a lifetime experience. That's what, at the end of the day, regardless of this, I'm like super happy to just as mean as I could be about feedback or whatever. I'm like definitely happy to have had the experience. And I only give feedback in a harsh way because I want the game to be good, and I'm passionate about it. And that sometimes that passion I can probably be a little bit too aggressive about things too. Like, there's gonna be it seems like there's gonna be great modding support, even to the extent that they've like added assets that they don't even actively use in the game, just for modders. Like I've heard about that. But yeah, it's like I think that I am someone who is passionate and I want the game to be good. And when things aren't, when things are too strong, I'm like, or things don't feel good. I'm like, I want the game to be great, and I think it can be great. So yeah, and that's like what it is for me. I will tell you guys, like the game is so good that it's so hard to go back and play. It really is. Like I don't feel like I want to play. Does that make sense? It's just like EU4 is so simple, so basic compared to what EU5 is. And it also, like, everything in the EU5 makes sense. And I like that a lot. Like, like you don't have like infinite royal marriages. You have to have like an actual, son to marry someone, right? So I was looking at Bengal and there is no Bengal, right? So that was part of the issue that because I was actually, that's my next friend, but I'm going to play, or I just started playing with Vijanagar. I haven't even done content like for freaking EU4, right? But it's kind of weird because I feel kind of bad playing in this tournament I'm playing in, because I'm like, the reality is I literally haven't played. I'm competing in a game I haven't played in for at least a month, and I kind of feel bad because yeah, if I would have known that I would have access, I probably would have tried, like let someone else compete, because I'm like not doing well or not. It's tough. I'm definitely not making as much money now, but it's okay. I'm hoping that it will turn around. But yeah, no, I've definitely taken a bit of a step back with money, just because like I'm not making as much videos. That's the reality. That's kind of the thing, is like it'll happen when it happens. And I actually like yeah. Yeah, I think things are I'm super optimistic for the future, and, all the time that I've invested hopefully will result in me being able to, make a lot of content, but make actual good content that someone that's played a lot and, has, because reality is if I don't really wanna if I wanna make guides, it's a lot better if I put a lot of time into the game. So I can be like, "Hey, I know how I know what not to do because 'cause I've done that a lot." Or I know what I like, and that's just kind of who I am as a player too. I like will try a bunch of stupid things. Like trying to I think today or something, I tried to change my culture as the Ottomans to, um, was the Byzantium culture. I was like, "I wanna see what would happen if I did this." Greek. I'm like, I wanna try to be like I was trying to become Greek as the Ottomans. Um, I was struggling to do so because they hate me so much, and it wouldn't let me, and I couldn't really figure out how to do it. Yeah, I'm hoping EU5 is gonna be huge for me, and yeah, just being able to make good content. Do they spam events? Yeah. Are you just being in general, like, sometimes it feels like events could be a little bit spammy, but it's like it's fine. Yeah, I'm playing Vijanagar right now, like, but I literally have only played, like, a year or 2. I think what I'm gonna try to do, though, is Vijanagar's in a weird spot because they're I don't know, I've never played the region too, so it's kinda weird, but I kinda wanna move my capital to the coast again, right? My capital's, like, in the middle of India, or because I'm playing Vijanagar, and I'm like, "How do I get to the I need to get to the coast." So I found the most valuable province, and where I want my capital is, like, Orissa. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do of course I'm gonna do conquest guides. I'll probably try to do, like, a lot of different guides though too. Like, I think I just wanna do, like, a guide on, like, how to navigate things in a way, is that if that makes sense? Like, "Hey, these are the helpful shortcuts that you're gonna wanna learn that are gonna save you a lot of time, because there is a lot of those. Like, like, "Here's the best way to recruit your army. Here's the best way to change your cabinet actions," right? Like, there's a lot of shortcuts that are in the game that you just that they're like, that the game has a lot of that, like, there's a lot of useful stuff that is hidden in the game. Oh, I'm sure I'm gonna be live, like, every day, after the game releases, and then trying to make videos. I'll probably make a ton of videos, like, prior to release, and then I'll just have those, like, come out, like, every day, but I'll still be playing. Oh, I'd love to. I really like Generalist, and me and him, like, I like the conversations that me and him have because he does make good points as to, and I feel like I also do too, because I guess we both have a lot of experience in the game, so we have like fair points. Like me being like I hate Parliament, but him being like, but I think it's important that you, like, from a role play perspective, to interact with your government. And I'm like, yeah, I can see that. That's a good point. And so, like, like, just kind of like, it could be fun in that way. And we both just have a we both have spent way too much time playing. You know, is there tech inequality? I mean, certainly there can be for a bit, especially when you get like different troops. That's like a huge power spike. But yeah, so like if you rush the new troop, for example, like it could give you a huge power spike. I think that though I've seen like I I funny enough, Generalist has left a lot of feedback on that already, like that, So I think they kind of like right now there could be a little bit of an issue, but I've never really felt like that's a big that big of an issue. Like you hitting a certain tech level for someone else. It could be, but the thing is that the AI also is pretty good with tech. But yeah, I don't know. I think some people I will say that if you're someone out there that doesn't like the UI, you'll get used to it. Like, don't stress. Like, I know that you're saying that because it's the only thing that you guys can really see, right? But I think that if you like, I would not judge the UI based off of watching some person play the game. Like it's just, but I understand why you guys will, because that's kind of the only way you can interact with the game, right? But I'm just saying, like, don't worry. Like it's not like the character portrait on the top left. Like I don't know why people think it's a big deal. Like that is such a minor thing. Like for me, it's a button that I can press that gets me to a menu. I'm like, I like that. Why? Like, well, what's wrong with that? You know, just in my opinion, it's like that's another button you can press. I would rather have another button that's handy than not. I know people like are really against that, but I'm like, eh. I get it. I get that people. I think that what you got, like, I think my favorite thing about the game, and you guys will probably be the same way, is like the map is like awesome. Like I'm playing in like Iberia, right? And man, like it's so it feels so big, like in a way that I can't describe. Like you're like Iberia feels like its own campaign. Like I like it's a different experience. Like you're like I've been playing in just that like when other in like imagine even me talking about conquering just this amount of land in 200 years and having a good time. When could I ever do that in EU4? Like that, you know what I mean? And I'm the person that hates playing tall, and if I can enjoy it, you know what I mean? Like that, you know, that says something about that. Or I can play a colonial nation and not do any wars and have fun. Like just give you guys some like ideas of like there's a lot of different fun things. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like I think the game is definitely more enjoyable without just Conquest. Even though I do enjoy Conquest, I feel like the parts that aren't Conquest are a lot more fun than they are in EU4. Is what I would say. Like the non-war is fun. And you don't I'm not saying like it's just weird because I don't think that I would have ever had that opinion. But, you know, just like playing it and enjoying it is like, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But you have to think in this game like, man, the map is so huge, you know? Like you guys understand like Granada is like a big place. You know, it's not just like this little like 4 provinces. It's like there's probably like 20, you know, 20 locations down there or something. And it's just a different experience. It really I remember the first time I really felt like the map was huge when I fought Serbia, and it was like I felt like I was fighting France when I was fighting Serbia because it was like it's so massive. And just by the way, speaking of that, invading France is crazy because it's like there's so many guys and there's so many locations, and it's yeah, it's hard to make progress when you're fighting France, and it's really not easy to take a lot of land from France or even get a lot of war score from France because you know it's just like you start beating up your guys so bad that like it's just not worth it for you to stay in the war. That'll happen a lot in EU5, which I feel like wasn't a thing in EU4. Is like you will want to piece out a war without getting a certain amount of war score. Like you'll run out of manpower. You don't want to continue a war to get 100 war score. Like it's hard. Yeah, France consolidates. Like the AI will annex all their subjects. Is um I mean my thing is that the thing that I always want to change is what I tell you guys is Parliament, and the it would just be a minor change too. In fact, I think I'd be okay with one change that would fix Parliament. Is that or it would change it greatly? Is just like Parliament should have to pass to get whatever bonus that you want. Like if you're trying to like get raised taxes, I think that that you should have to pass the agenda that you're voting on. As in they add like I would imagine that that you're you know you kind of like you added this to the agenda you're trying to pass, right? Like and that's what I would like to see, because then it would be a lot more punishing. And a lot harder to get that. Because normally I'll just be like, oh, okay, I'll raise taxes, and then I'll just take the -7 stab drop to do that, and it's not a big deal. But if I had to pass the reform as well, then it would be a lot harder, because sometimes you don't want to give certain things to Parliament. And that, you're going to be like, oh, it's not worth it to do that. And then you're not going to be able to get the taxes as a result. And that's going to be a lot more, I think, like a fair gameplay loop. And same with the, Parliament claim as well, right? Like, same situation where it's going to be a lot more punishing if you have to pass the reform. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Parliament's just like a button. Like, Parliament feels really like wrong to me. Okay, you guys are gonna think this is weird, but what felt really great about being a colonial nation is that I was blocked from using Parliament. And that's probably what made it so fun and hard too, because I didn't have like a win button. Like, I think of Parliament as, this is my theory, and people that might agree, but I think as Parliament was introduced because the game is very complex and challenging, and they felt like that wouldn't be good for new players, and that's why I think Parliament was introduced, to make things easier, basically. Like, oh, here's an easy way, like a quick way to get claims or money, or you can do a bunch of things, solve a bunch of problems. Like, you have the ability to like merc up, basically. But that's what I would change. And I don't even think, like, I wouldn't say that you should take away Parliament, but more so that but yeah, that's always been my biggest critique, or what I think the game, like, and I would honestly consider, like, day one using a mod that would just remove Parliament. And part of the reason, though, too, is that the AI, like, it's not fair for the AI. And yeah, I think if it was changed, it could be like, I think Parliament could be good, though. Right? Like, I don't think it's like not fixable. But I do think that it's like, I think that also the RNG aspect of it isn't my favorite. I think the idea with Parliament is that it's basically a way that values are pushed, right? Because that's like some of the things are like, oh, like, you give naval focus, and you get like a little bit of, or if you pass a certain reform. But I think that what they should do is like rework it. Here, I was actually talking to Generalist like that about this, and I think that I think this rework would be amazing. Is that you instead of doing what you do now, you debate about values. So you would start a debate and be like, we're gonna debate about making our nation more centralized, and like, we're gonna have to give away certain things we don't want, like maybe money, or maybe like different, you have to change a law that you don't want to do. And then that would be a way to naturally push your values in a direction, because I think that's kind of what Parliament is, but it's more of like an RNG system to get there. Where I think it'd be an amazing system. Like, I think Parliament could be good with just a couple changes. And I do think that, like, in general, being able to change laws is free, right? And I don't like that, because I feel like changing a big law in your nation would be destabilizing. Like, you're all of a sudden, like, you were really intolerant to other religions, and now you're not. Wouldn't that be like a little bit of a drastic change? I would imagine it would be like, people would be probably a little bit upset about that if you were like, hey, by the way, we used to be like we used to be like about slavery, but now we're anti-slavery. Like, I can't imagine that not being a little bit upsetting to some people. I think there's just a couple of unique ones. Right. Well, and that's the thing with me, is like, I don't like, so like all these different, and again, I think, yeah, Generalist too, when we talk about it, it's not that I hate any particular thing. I just think Parliament is overpowered in general. Like, most things you can do with it are just too overpowered. But they have hit, the nerfs are significant that they've already gotten, because now whenever you want to give something, it makes all the other states mad. It's like, you give the ability something, right? It's like it pisses off the other states, because you're giving them something, and not, which is at least a little better. But, and I think that, I know Generalist doesn't like like this, but I'm like, funny because me and him are different there. Like I'm like, nerf it harder. This is good. I like that it's worse. Let's make it worse, even more worse, right? I feel like I mean, let's just say here, getting like, I think that the free money button is ridiculous. You know, plus like double your taxes for one out of 5 years with double taxes, right? Is nuts. It's kind of just nuts, and it's just like, I don't know. And I noticed that they like, I don't know how they're gonna do with the AI, but I was testing the AI and I don't like what they do because it's not logical. They like will give all the AI will give out all of the things that the different estates want, so it can get, but it doesn't like know how to value that. It just gives everything until it reaches a certain percent. No, nobody gets mad because you're only doing it for a year, and rebels don't progress that fast. So like, like imagine people get like, you tax people like 70% of the income for a year, and then for the next 4 years it's like back to the 30% or whatever. I think it's way more broken than favors. But that's my gripe with it, because and to me, like again, I have done runs where I play without Parliament, and the game is way harder. Way harder. And here's another issue. The AI has to know CB mostly to go to war. You don't, right? Like because the AI doesn't understand the concept of you need, like the AI doesn't understand that it should get a, like the AI will just be like, it'll see that it can win a war, right, and go to war. But a player would be like, obviously, oh, here's a war I can do. I'm going to call Parliament to get a CB, and like unfortunately the AI will just, what I've seen, it gets claims on their rivals, but it doesn't use those claims often because it only will go to war if it thinks it's a good war, or you know what I mean. So like that's kind of that's part of the issue with it. And so if I feel like if you also like, I almost feel like you not using Parliament puts you on more of an even ground with the AI, because that's how they're gonna expand, right? Like, so you basically as a player get a better route of expansion because of that. And I don't really like that necessarily. Oh, certainly there's room for the AI to improve, and they will work on it. And I guess if the AI learns how to use Parliament as effective as the player, then it's not as bad of a deal, right? Like that's fine. But for now, maybe that's more of the issue, is that the player just understands it so well. And like, if the AI I feel like the issue is the AI is generally looking for the AI is looking for an opportunity to go to war that it sees it can win, and that might not coincide with Parliament being up. So that's kind of like where I don't know what they, like, what's the answer there? Like, the AI sees a war it can win and that it wants to declare, but what if I mean, that's the tough part. Whereas obviously, if the CB being so much better is also part of the issue, right? Where it's like, oh, as the player, you take 90% less, like, or you basically have a 90% better CB than them as the player, and that's problematic, right? Because we're already players and we're going to be better than the AI. You know, they made it worse, but compared to what the AI does, because the AI will often, unless the AI is like the Ottomans and they have like specific event stuff, right? Then they'll just no CB, and no CB is plus 100%, and Parliament is plus 10. So it's 90% difference. Compare the AI. I think the AI is like way better at showing up to wars and being a problem. Like, if you're at war with somebody, the AI is like way better at that. Like, the AI is a lot better in the actual war itself, just not it's worse at getting to that war, if that makes sense. Right. No, you're right though, Psionic. Like, I agree with you. But I wish that's why I kind of wish it was not that way though, right? Like I wish that the AI would honestly, that's why I'm like, I would rather that I had to use no CB as well, so that way we're all on the same page. Do AIs walk across the whole continent? They generally have navies, and then we'll ship their troops over. But I guess no, they can't. Like access is a lot harder. If they can't get access, they won't do it, and they often like won't get access. Access is a lot harder in the game. By the way, like you'll have a lot of times where you can't. You thought you could fight against someone that is away from you, like, but you can't get access. For one, you have to pay for access, but you also have to have like good relations. So if you have negative relations with someone, they'll never give you access. And the only way that you can circumvent that is if you're the middle hegemon. And that's Egypt. Okay. There's a setting where you can have the AI behave historically or not. So basically, the AI will either be, you can choose to have the AI to be historical or weighted are the two options. Not really, no. Food supply and logistics don't really matter, if I'm being honest. Not really. Not really. To me, like I don't understand horses, but I feel like I might start building some more horses in my armies. Generally, it feels like the entire game, your stack size doesn't really get to change that much. Like generally, you want 30 units. Is what I've seen, or you can support that without taking attrition in most places. But these units obviously change depending on the age. Like like I'm talking like 30 total units. So like in the early game, a unit is 100, and that in the late game, that same thing is like 3,200, right? So like, but just like 30 combined units feels like the max you can do without getting a massive attrition. But I haven't really like I should try using horses, but they're so damn expensive that it feels. But I guess with this, now that I Generalist has taught me a little bit about economy, maybe I can actually afford those, right? And now that I think now that they got forts in a better spot and stuff like that, I actually like the new fort system. It's like, hey, you're gonna have to pay 100% more war score if you don't take a fort. But then that also like now you're actually more focused on where you wanna conquer though, which is good. Like you want this land itself. The game motivates you to actually siege out the land you want rather than sieging out, whatever to get war score, which it feels a lot better, I think. So you like if you want to take certain land, like you should invade that area and you're punished if you don't. Which I think is like a lot more reasonable and, probably more realistic. Yeah, I could see that. I haven't really played around with that. Man, the Ottomans got so nerfed though. I'm like I can't believe it. I'm like, oh man. It seems like they I feel like Paradox likes to over nerf and then maybe like give some love back. Actually, I've never seen them give anything back. I think they just like to nerf things hard sometimes. Like they seem like there's a like oh, this is a problem, and we're gonna address this problem like severely. Like who here would say that if I do a Portugal video and I explain all those modifiers that it stays in the game? I'd be willing to bet money it will not. Like genuinely. I probably will like a video because I want it to get nerfed, and maybe I should ask Generalist first though, because he showed me it. You know, like maybe I should ask him if he's comfortable with because I think it will get nerfed. Yes, but I can't tell you, Invictus. In fact, I know the exact day, but I can't tell you, so I don't know why you bother asking. But that would be my answer for there. Yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, like, I think that Byzantium will get nerfed. By the way, like you know what happened? Like the developers like looked at that and they're like, hey, they like I told you they even asked for my save. Like they literally thought like saw that video and they're like, they're reacting to that immediately. I think that like the Byzantium will be nerfed after that. I actually pretty confident. I think that's just like a reality. Like when content's made like that, and and if they don't like the results that are shown in or explained in the videos, they're probably going to adjust that. But yeah, I mean, that's always my goal too with pushing the limits. Is I'm not just pushing the limits so that people can be upset about it, which people do get upset about it, right? And maybe that even plays into it. But if they get upset about it, then that's a direct message to the developers being like, oh, these people are upset about this run that was showed, and we need to adjust some things. What do you think of a feature to allow? There is a feature to do that. It's just very hard to do. No, I never see another Turkish Baelish than the Ottomans win. Oh, the Ottomans always win. And then they lose to Egypt. And I'm not joking. That's pretty normal. They basically like the Ottomans come on top, but then they will probably lose land to Egypt at some point because Egypt will, or they'll ally to Egypt sometimes. And Byzantium is in this patch. Remember before Byzantium won't survive anymore. Like the AI Byzantium will not survive. The player, yes, but the AI definitely you will like. It's pretty rare to see Byzantium survive. They get destroyed. The Ottomans, what do they have different? I don't know. I guess that wouldn't be a good question for me because I haven't played any of the Beyliks. I don't really know. I think that everyone has the. Oh wait, I know what it is. The leader of whoever the strongest Beylik is has access to a couple of the abilities, like and these ones specifically are like the way that you get claims, if I recall correctly. So like the leader, whoever's winning is like they win easier. Does that make sense? Because they can get claims. I think that's what happened because I remember playing the Ottomans and like I fell a little behind and I could no longer get claims and it was like I'm like, oh, I gotta fix this. Like this is bad. I'm not going to be able to expand very well anymore. Ottomans got nerfed so hard. I can't believe it. I look at that and it's like, no way, no way. They lost 10 max control. That's nuts. That's so much of a nerf. Like, I know it was OP, but that's crazy, right? That's so much value they just lost. Why did they? I think control is getting nerfed across the board. Like control has been super nerfed, right? They nerfed bailiffs, they nerfed proximity, they and they nerfed like serfdom control. Like I feel like anytime there's max control, they're like nerfing it right now. Like technically it is cheese will. Like basically parliament is like this. Like parliament is like parliament. And then it'll be like in parentheses, like whatever flavor you're playing. Like maybe it's a tribal council or something, right? Like they do that. It's just in parentheses, something like that. So it's not. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'm gonna call it a day. I hope you guys, have a good one. We'll be doing some Vajanagar AAR soon. So look forward to that. And take it easy.